Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Ad-Lib. I'm your host, JD Witherspoon, and today we have got a very, very interesting guest, and I'd love to give them a proper intro by making sure I got their credits right, okay? So, you know what this is, my show where I sit down with friends and creatives and thinkers and visionaries and all kinds of people all over the world, and we have real, unfiltered conversations, and I treat it like it's the last one we're ever going to get. That's kind of the point, all right? So, today's guest is Elliott Connie, whose work is literally changing lives. Not in like some weird, I guess vague motivational quote kind of way. He is actually like really, really changing them. Like he does it in a real therapeutic, life shifting kind of way. This is what he's capable of. All right. So he's a world-renowned psychotherapist, educator, and author who's trained thousands of mental health professionals across the globe with his unique approach to solution-focused brief therapy. Now, the man's written books, he's built a private practice, he runs an entire online learning platform, and still finds time to inspire people through podcasts, social media, and public speaking, and sitting down with me, because I was like, bro, you got time for this? And he was like, yeah, I'm excited to do this. Let's get it popping. So we had a really great conversation, and I think you'll really enjoy it. But beyond the titles and accomplishments, Elliott is someone who's known. But beyond the titles and the accomplishments, Elliott is someone who knows how to meet people where they are, whether they are in a crisis or just trying to be better than they were yesterday. So this is our first ever sit down, and I'm excited to dig into everything. It gets juicy. It gets pretty good. His story, his struggles, his passions, the legacy he's building. So if you've been curious about how therapy can be transformative or how someone turns their pain into purpose, then trust me, look in my eyes. Trust me. This is the one to lock you in. That sounds very silly, but I mean, I'm just being real. I like this conversation. I thought it was really good, and it went really long, and we had like a deep conversation about what he's capable of and what he's doing in the world. So with that, let us get into this new episode of Ad-Lib and enjoy my conversation with Dr. Elliott Connie.
This is literally more intense than the Breakfast Club.
Oh, you think so?
100%. I've been to the Breakfast Club 3 times. This is more intense than the Breakfast
More
Club.
intense?
100%.
Or you mean like the setup maybe, but that's
This, yeah.
Nah, the Breakfast, you know how they, shout out to Charlemagne.
No, Charlemagne's the man. I love Charlemagne, like for real.
Yeah,
but
no.
What you got going on here is more intense than the Breakfast Club.
Oh, I try.
The only thing they got this dope cameraman.
That dude who they forced to stand the whole time.
He stands right
I don't
there.
listen, no disrespect. That's abuse. Every time I watch that thing, I'm like, why don't y'all just put that on a tripod?
Nope.
Just zoom it in on a tripod. Nope. It makes me like uncomfortable because it doesn't feel like a podcast. It feels like run and gun Anthony Bourdain, but we're just yapping.
He is up there holding that thing on a shoulder harness, bro.
That is so silly. I'm here to introduce my new friend, good friend, Elliott Connie. Correct. He is a friend of mine who this is actually how I like to start my episodes. I like to ask, do you remember how we met?
100%.
Obviously you do, because it was somewhat recent. So
100%.
What was your experience, I guess? Because I know we met like sitting down to eat at lunch with our good mutual friend.
At like Earth or something.
At Earth, or what was that? What's it?
Earth Cafe, I think.
Was it Earth Cafe or was it True Food? It was.
No, I think it was Earth Cafe.
It was Earth Cafe.
Yeah.
And we met through our mutual friend who is Fern Orenstein, aka ex-casting vice president, I believe, of CBS.
Yeah. For
like the last 20, if not 30 years.
30.
Who I know through being a part of her program called the CBS Diversity Showcase, which, no disrespect to you, Fern, ain't nothing diverse about it. there was nothing diverse about it when I was there. But that is how I met her. I remember I ran into her at a random party, and then she mentioned I needed to meet you, which I thought was fascinating. But how did she pitch that lunch to you?
Well, Fern. So first of all, and shout out to you, because I don't vibe with everybody. Like, I'm a very introverted person. And I protect my energy, and I don't vibe with everybody. And she came to me and she said, I got this guy I need you to meet. Now, the thing about Fern, and it is hard for two people that know her, it's hard to describe her.
It ain't that hard, but no, it is hard.
There's no other human being like this. I've never met anybody human like this. But
absolutely not.
The one thing I will say is she always has a big, huge heart. I could call Fern right now and be like, I was walking out of JD's office, I tripped and fell, and I can't make it to my car. Fern would be like, let me get out of bed and help. Like, and no resentment, it's just how she is. So she was like, there's this guy I know, and I'm new in the entertainment world. And she's like, I just want you to meet really good people. This guy, JD Witherspoon's a really good person. And she's like, oh, you may know of him. I said, how? Like, how come? His dad was in a lot of stuff. And I was like, what's the dad's name? Like, John Witherspoon? I was like, Pops. and to me, another thing about me being in this entertainment world, like, so much of this is surreal. Like, so much of this is crazy.
Sure, it's got to be a bit of a culture shock coming from the world you come from, because I wouldn't know how it would feel to go into your world all of a sudden, and if people wanted me to be there.
Even like when you grow up, and you have a like ×2 of this, but when you enter in the entertainment world, the fruits of the entertainment world, you can envision them. So the day you decided, I'd like to be a comic, getting a TV show, winning an award, like, you can see all that stuff.
Yeah.
I went to graduate school to become a psychotherapist, and then all of a sudden she's like, there's this really cool comic. He's a TV star of his own right, and you might know his dad. And I immediately think back at like a real dark time in my life. I used to watch stand-up comedy, and I used to watch funny movies to laugh because I needed laughter. And Friday came out during one of those stretches of my life. Like, I'm just watching this because I need to laugh. And if you had told me that X number of years in the future, I'd be at Earth Cafe with that dude's son and Fern, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So in my head, I was willing to meet you because I trust Fern, and Fern knows. Like, I'm very introverted. I'm very protective of my energy. And just as soon as we sat down, we started vibing. And the other night just happened again.
Yeah.
So that's how we met. Of course, I remember. I'll never forget it. It was just sitting outside of Earth Cafe.
Shout out to Fern. Because, like, no, what you did say about her, like, being a ride or die for you, she is that.
Yes, 100%.
I don't think enough people got to see that side of her, or maybe she didn't build that bond with them in order to facilitate that type of thing. Because I know that, like, after I finished her program in the CBS Diversity Showcase, that started my pilot season, which meant it started the beginning of me getting calls from genuine, like, studios. Like, hey, we saw him in your showcase and he's talented. Can we get him to come audition for said project? Or he's talented enough where we think maybe there's some way we can sell him around something. Can we get a general meeting? And I remember, she promised us that too. She said, listen, after this, I promise your lives are going to change.
Yes.
And then she was like, if you stick through it all, your lives are going to change. And I would love to actually sit down with Fern and chat with her about this, because I don't think she remembers saying this to me, but I don't know if it was motivation or if she was serious, but there was like, so for the CBS Diversity Showcase, we have to do like a multitude of, it's like Saturday Night Live on steroids, right?
Yes, I've heard about this.
Yeah, so you have to, we
Tiffany did it, Kate McKinnon did it.
Yes,
like all these
Kate
people
McKinnon, Tiffany Haddish, me, there's a bunch of other people who came out of it. And when you're in it, you have it's not necessarily an intensive. It's not like you're learning a class. No, you are the product, and you're either in the realm of either the performer or the writer. So you're basically pitching scripts every day that are supposed to go up during the showcase. And then we go from like 5,000 pitch sketch ideas down to maybe 10 to 15 or 20. And also you may or may not get cut and or not even get a spot to, one, perform, two, be one of the writers whose sketch got to the stage, which is very much like SNL on a weekly basis. That's what they go through.
Right.
But I do remember that she pulled me to the side one time after I performed a sketch, and she was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but like,
I don't know. You kind of. I don't know if it's maybe you're green. Like kind of like maybe you're new to this, but I'm not. She's like, I'm not getting the vibe that like maybe you fit here. I feel like she was fucking with me because I was like, I almost was like, bitch, what? I was like, wait,
that is fun.
I was like, either this is motivation, or she's serious. Or maybe she just wants me to ham it up in like the weird, because she would love.
It could be both. Like,
it could be both.
Fern wants to bring out the best of everybody. And I'll tell you a quick Fern story. When I shot my sizzle reel, so I have a couple of development projects, and we were shooting the sizzle reel for one of them, and it did not come out well. And I was green. Like, I'd never done anything like this before. And the strike had happened, so the only people who could be on the set for the sizzle shoot was one producer and a cameraman. Like,
okay.
And COVID, it was just a weird time in Hollywood in that time. And Fern saw it, and she was like, you guys didn't get the best out of Elliott. So she's like, we got to reshoot it. And another thing y'all should know about everybody who doesn't know Fern, she is going to get her way. Like that's just Fern.
No matter what.
So to your point about Fern, the way she was talking to you, she just didn't like the way I came off on the first sizzle reel shoot. So then the second shoot, Fern's now, I got to be there. She brought another friend from the entertainment industry there to help. There was a producer and a cameraman. And Fern's not a very tall woman, so there was a tripod set up with a camera pointed directly at me. Fern is standing under the camera going like this. Like, just like to encourage me, bring the energy.
Like, I can see her right now.
She's like going like this. And I'm trying to like talk, in the way that for the sizzle. And the whole time, the camera's over her head, and she's like, come on. I'm like, Fern. But that's how bad she wants it for people that she believes in. And when you're lucky enough to be one of the people she believes in, your life will change.
And I think that's to the point, because like in that scenario, you are kind of green doing what you're doing.
Oh, 100%.
So when she said it to me, I was like, what? She said that from the perspective of, I don't know if like maybe you'll make it to the final roster of casts, but then I'm like that makes, like, in my brain, I'm like, that makes no sense. I'm like the only black dude here who does like pitch for pitch impressions, and we're doing a lot of them. I was like, I also just told her, I was like, okay, I appreciate the feedback. I told her, if I give you what you want, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. I told her that. And she was like, okay, let's go.
But that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
Like she will, and even if you're at like a 92%, she's going to be trying to think, how do I get him to 93? Like, that's Fern. Like, she's that person.
And I love her for that.
I love her for that too. My life will never be the same because I met Fern.
I agree. Yeah. And it's also one of those things where I think after that whole scenario, I was just like, I think that was the moment that I mentioned to you where I said, listen, if someone's going to kind of tell me I'm not shit right now, I was like, let me hear it right now, where I genuinely am not anyone. Like, whatever, I've built up whatever, but I was like, no, I'm not a lister or whatever it is. I was like, I'd much rather hear this from someone who's going to, because you're going to come across those types of people in your career or whatever avenue you're in, whether it's, performing or therapy and being in the background of all of that, and that completely different economy or community. But yeah, I said to myself, I was like, okay. I was like, I can take criticism. I'm like, yeah, okay, I hear you. I'll ham it up, I'll make it better, whatever it is, and we'll get it done. And I definitely learned from her that, like, in retrospect, that like the moment we got it done and everything came out the way that, she was looking to bring out the best in me, after that, she was like, what can I do for you?
Yeah. I hope everybody in the world has a friend like Fern. And I genuinely believe that. Like, she wants what's good for you so bad. And I've met literally dozens of people since coming out into this entertainment world who will tell me meeting Fern changed my life. Like, dozens of people will say that.
It'll change your life. in more ways than one.
That's
I only
a fact.
say that because I know some people, I don't think it changed it for the better. Because has she ever told you how she would be during those
Yes.
CBS?
Yes.
Because she'd be telling motherfuckers, hey, you fat.
Yeah.
She'd be like, lose 3 pounds,
Yes.
add 2 pounds, something.
Yes,
So
yes.
she never said. I
she
never
actually told me. She told me that.
Yeah.
She told me, period.
Yeah.
Like the way she was at that time, she told me the things she would say to these actors.
But again, she wasn't even basing off of her own personal issue stuff. She's like, no, I cast all the time.
Yeah.
If you wanted a job, you would get it if you were 10 pounds less, or if you were a little bit more muscular, or if you lost the beard, added the mustache. She's doing it from the perspective of, I watch television all day, every day.
That's literally
I'm in casting rooms all day, every day.
Literally it.
I'm, that's the thing. I think a lot of actors don't realize that the difference between you getting a job or not could be the fact that you're too tall. Like, I've had that happen.
Fern's not, when Fern meets a person, she's not really, at least in that part of the world, she's not meeting a person. She's meeting like a picture.
Yeah.
And she is saying, if you want this picture to be casted, the picture needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't care about your personality. She didn't care about your feelings. She, at that moment, you're not JD. You're like a entity.
Yeah.
That she is like, can I make a show with this entity? Well, maybe I could without the beard, or maybe I could if you're a little shorter. And she will tell you.
Yeah.
The picture doesn't look right, so here's what you should do to change the picture. That's just Fern.
She's unapologetically herself, which is
Every second of every day.
which I recommend more people get around, because I'm like that. You'll learn.
100%. I genuinely mean everyone should have a friend in their life like Fern.
Yeah.
The greatest gift, and I'm saying this like as a psychotherapist, the healthiest thing you can have in your circle is people who see things in you that you don't yet see.
Mm-hmm.
And Fern sees stuff in people that they don't see.
Yeah.
And that's a magical thing.
This is the truth.
That's probably why she was so good at casting. Like, she sees something that you might not see, and she's able to do something with the thing that she sees.
Yeah, I mean, at a
magic.
certain point, you have an eye for it. She's one of those people who has an eye for the job that she was doing for however many years. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. That's we interviewed Fern tonight. Just y'all
If
go.
you gotta know Fern. You got an introduction into Fern.
Go.
The literal most interesting human I've ever met.
Go Google her. All right. So Elliott, so now that we've met, we've gotten to know each other a little bit better. I didn't even realize when I did meet you. I definitely realized after Fern kind of broke it down. She was like, "I want you to meet my friend who's a therapist," and I was like, "Okay, what are you saying?" But you've been a therapist, I don't know how many years, I would assume.
A lot, almost 20.
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20.
And then you started, well, I guess I'll do like from the beginning. So how does one get to a point where they've had 20 years of being a therapist, and then I guess accumulating all of the experiences and things that you've been able to pull off? And I guess I know that we were going to start with just the fact that you're from Chicago.
Born in Chicago, raised in Boston.
And what is it about, I guess, that beginning experience that I guess got you started just in life in general, like,
Well, life was traumatic for me. My dad was not the kindest man in the home. He was very critical, angry, abusive, loud. And when I say loud, I mean like yelling at you. And it was just hard. And he would say things like, I've got 2 brothers, one younger, one older. And he would, like, when he was mad at you, he would say, I only have 2 sons, deleting the son he's mad at the time. And you don't grow up with high self-esteem. You don't grow up feeling good about yourself. You don't grow up knowing your self-worth and or value. And I spent a lot of my childhood depressed and angry. And I remember being like epically suicidal. And I was in college at the time, and I knew like I'm not going to be around much longer. Now, I don't know how much of a religious person you are, but there are moments in your life where it's just like God has taken over. Like right now in this moment, God has taken over. I was a freshman, and I was laying in my bed, and I was going to take a nap. And I knew, like I wasn't thinking about it. I knew I'm not going to be around for another couple of weeks. It was so clear to me that when I would drive by, like there was this shopping plaza, and it was like a Taco Bell was under construction, and I knew I'm not going to live to see that Taco Bell complete. I didn't say maybe, like I knew. And then one day I was laying in my dorm room taking a nap. And as I was laying there drifting off to sleep, I had this vision that I'm convinced to this day that God put there. I had this vision of my funeral. And I, like all my friends going up to the podium saying, Like, we didn't know Elliott was this sad, this depressed, this troubled. And I couldn't live with that. Like, they were all talking about me, and I wanted them to talk about my dad. Like, I wanted them to say, I didn't know his dad was such an asshole. Like, I didn't know his dad was such a tormentor. I didn't know his dad. And when I woke up, for whatever reason, I couldn't live with them not knowing the truth. So in that moment, I just decided I have to live long enough for people to know the story. Mm-hmm. And the very next semester, like very next day, my life started to change. I was like, all right, I gotta start living for me if I'm gonna outlive this trauma. And I started really genuinely working on myself and changing my life. And before I knew it, I wasn't depressed anymore. And I gave my dad boundaries, and to this day, I haven't spoken to my dad in 20 years.
Oh, wow.
LeBron James is a difficult figure for me because the last day I talked to my father was the first day LeBron James was on television. Now, those of you old enough to remember, ESPN used to not show high school sports. Now, ESPN2, ESPN, but they did not show high school sports. And LeBron James's high school team was playing Carmelo Anthony's high school team, mm-hmm. and they broadcast it on ESPN. And at that time, it was a big deal. This is a big major deal. And that was the last night I talked to my father. Like, we had make a really long story as short as I can. I was living in Texas at the time, and my father came to visit. Me and my younger brother were living in Texas at the time. My older brother had come in. So it's like the last time we were all together. We went to go see a movie called Swordfish.
Yeah, I remember that.
A Travolta movie, Halle Berry.
That's Halle Berry. Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Halle Berry looked good. I remember that when I was a kid.
Halle Berry,
but that's what she's. Yeah,
she would look good waking up in the middle of the night,
no matter what.
Yeah, this is a beautiful woman. But we're walking out of the theater, this terrible movie, and my older brother said, "I'll never get those 2 hours back." And my father, having a unique and diagnosable ability to make everything about him, heard this phrase and then gets mad. I flew all the way here, and that's what you're going to say? He didn't understand it was a critique of the movie.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with...
He made it about himself.
It made it about himself. So there was this huge fight in the parking lot. And I had driven that time, and I had an old Volvo. It was like the third Volvo ever rolled off the lot. This thing was old, and radio didn't work, but it was mine. I grew up poor. I actually bought this. So we have this huge fight, shoving, pushing, everything. And somehow the fight dissipates. We get in the car, and my dad gets in the passenger seat, and he slams my car door. Now, he didn't know this, but this is about a month after that experience I had in my dorm room. And I turned to my dad, and I said, I need you to get out of my car and get back in like you respect me. And he looked at me like I was crazy because I'd never said anything like this to him. And I said, I'm serious. I'm not moving this vehicle until you close my door like you respect me. Mm-hmm. And he got out of the car and walked 3 miles to his hotel. And I remember thinking, like, this dude would rather walk miles than show me respect. And later that night, I called him, and I was like, man, I can't have you in my life anymore until you meet these criteria. And what I asked him to do was 4 things. You cannot yell at me. You cannot hit me. You cannot curse at me. And you cannot call me names. If you can give me these 4 things, I'll get past everything else. I just need these 4 things. And he said, fuck you, and hung up the phone. And I was like, okay. So that clearly is telling me you can't do these 4 things.
He refused to do it.
Right. He told me he's not.
Because even in doing that is showing you some kind of respect.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that time, he's in a hotel. We're having this phone call. He's in a hotel. So I called his home phone. And again, not to make myself sound like, I'm from the 1900s, but I called his home. And back then we had answering machines. And I left a voicemail on his answering machine saying, until you can meet these 4 criteria, I will not talk to you. And as hard as that was, and it was hard. Like, I tell people all the time, the hardest thing in the world to do is to grieve someone that's still alive. Mm-hmm. And it was hard. But my life started getting better. My GPA went up, and I started thinking more clearly. And for the first time in my life, I started living for me instead of trying to please a narcissistic personality. Whenever someone is, I mean, I'm not diagnosing him, but I have the credentials to diagnose, so I know what I'm looking at. But whenever there's like that narcissistic personality around you, you live to appease their mood. Mm-hmm. You just can't help it. And for the first time, I was like living for me. And as my mental health improved, I was like, I want to help other people have this. And the only way I could think to do that was become a psychotherapist. So I went and changed my major to psychology, and somehow did well enough that I got into graduate school. And I just got on fire about, like, I don't think people realize, like, the mental health journey is actually something you can do. Like, it's actually something you can go on. Like, regardless how traumatic the story is, you can, in essence, fix your mental health. You can live an inspired, purposeful life, and it'll make a difference to people. And that's literally what made me want to do it. Like, I just want to help people overcome what would otherwise destroy them. I actually think suffering is unnecessary. I think pain is inevitable, but I think your ability to heal is also inevitable if you do the right things. And my decision to become a psychotherapist was literally all about that.
That's very. How did you, in that moment, how did you know to ask for those 4 things? Were you like, did you realize that you were setting boundaries, or were you just like, were you just at that age where you're like, hey man, this is so frustrating. You're literally ruining this moment with our family. Can you, if you know, I guess maybe it just came to you, like, not like it's some sort of thing.
But I know exactly how it happened though, because like we think about setting boundaries, like JD, I don't like when you wear gray. Don't wear gray over my house no more. That's a boundary. I need you to respect it. Like, that's how we think about boundaries. But for me,
oh well, yeah, of course,
I was like, okay, I'm going to die. Like and these are the 4 things killing me. And I knew that my mental health was not great. I knew that my self-esteem was not great. So I just thought about, like, what are the things killing my self-esteem?
Right.
And it was those things. Like, it is hard to articulate to somebody what it is like when you are verbally told you ain't shit. Like, when you are verbally told that throughout the entirety of your life.
Yeah.
And then you have to think, you're either, and think about how painful this is. You have to think. I had a professor tell me, so I went to college almost by accident. I was a very good baseball player, and some schools wanted me to play baseball there. Like, I didn't have any ambitions to becoming anything when I went into college. I was just like, oh, they have baseball in there. So I want to play baseball. That I can't do it in high school anymore because I graduated. So now I got to find some place to do it. And I had a professor, Dr. Marilyn Pugh. If you're watching this, Marilyn Pugh, like, you're a huge part of my story too. She was an amazing woman. And one day she asked me to stay after class. And she said, and she doesn't know all the stuff going on in my head because I spent a lot of time confused and lost. And she said, what do you plan to do with your life? And I was like, I don't know. And she said, have you thought about becoming a psychotherapist? And I didn't know what that was. I was like, what is a psychotherapist? She says, it's a counselor. Like, you can help people. It's like, I had no earthly clue what that job was, right? I had no idea what that was. And I knew that if I didn't figure out who I was going to die. And when Dr. Pugh said that to me, I remember walking back around campus and having an incredibly painful thought. And the painful thought was, my dad had openly, verbally told me, you're never going to amount to anything. And then here's this professor telling me, you're very talented. You should consider this. And she was like, I've seen how people respond to you. You have a personality and you really should think about this. So here's this professor saying, you are talented. And here's this dad telling me, you're never going to amount to anything. And I believed him. Like, why wouldn't I? Like, dad, I believed him.
Yeah.
But I had this painful thought, like, if she's right, that means he's wrong. And if he's wrong, that meant he lied to me my whole life. And that's a painful realization. But that's what I was wrestling with. Like, I need to find out if she's right. Because if she's right, I got to deal with the pain that he was he was giving me this. But if she's right, I can live a whole life of fruitfulness and purpose and joy, and I can have an experience that I hadn't had up until that point.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew, like, I was just thinking about, like, what's getting in my way? And it's these things. Like, you can't be a happy person if someone has access to you and they're cursing at you every day. And if you're physically around them, they might swing at you. If they're telling you you're never, like, you can't thrive.
They won't allow it.
Right. I had to tell him, from this point forward, nobody in my life does these things, and that includes you. And it was hard. He did some super manipulative things. Like, we didn't have any money. And after I told him that, the next Christmas, he gave my younger brother like $500 for Christmas, which he had never done before. And he also sent me a check for $500. And I knew if I cashed this, he bribed me out of my boundaries or out of my mental health.
Yeah, hold it over your head.
It was like that stuff where it's like, I got to turn. It was that first year was hard, but he has not. I saw him for the first time a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
In 20 years. But he has never.
Was there communication, or was it just like in passing?
Man, it was frustrating because, like, now I'm older.
Sure.
My younger brother, whom I love and have a lot of respect for, has an amazing family. He has 2 great kids. And I saw him at one of the kids' basketball games. And my dad came up to me and he was like, "How you doing, son?" And he gave me a hug. And I wanted so bad to be like, "Don't call me son."
I'm sure it's triggering.
And don't ask me how I'm doing unless you actually care. But I can't say none of that because my niece and nephew were right there.
Gonna be malice at the palace.
So I had to just give him a hug back. And I was so mad because I was like, I felt manipulated. Like, you did it on purpose.
It is
knowing that I can't
sure.
pop off. And I don't want to pop off in an angry way, but I just want to be like, no, the boundaries that I set in place when LeBron was a junior in high school are still the boundaries that you have to follow. But it didn't trigger me. Like, it actually felt empowering. Like, felt like you don't have the power over me like you once did.
It's also, just from hearing what you're talking about, to me, a situation of like, no, keep it as what it is.
Right.
Keep that same energy that
Yes.
we've had since the last time I saw you.
Yes.
Nothing new has changed.
Nope.
And don't try to have, selective amnesia.
Nope.
And figure out, oh, you still on that? Because that's the shit that they do.
Yeah, it's 100%. He said that to my young brother. Elliott has an anger problem and all this kind of stuff. Elliott, he was like, Elliott is projecting. I was like, no, it's not. Projecting is, I'm mad at you and I'm taking it out on my friend JD. That's projecting. Mm-hmm. I'm mad at you and I'm taking it out on you.
Yeah.
That's actually appropriate.
Yep.
But he does all that stuff, but none of it matters to me really, because you know what? Like, none of it matters. And I've done crazy things, man. I've written books. I've done keynotes all over the world. I've made millions of dollars with my company, like everything. The proudest thing of my life is the last physical altercation that happened in the movie theater parking lot when we went to see Swordfish.
Right.
And that was the night I gave him boundaries. Those 4 things have never happened to me again, either by him or anybody else. No one's ever yelled at me, hit me, called me names, or cursed at me ever again.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of, like, the broken 19-year-old Elliott was able to be like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, you set a boundary with the world.
And I honored it, like, including him. And he would never talk to me like that now, because I've become like an emotionally strong human being, and I wasn't that under his care.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, was your mom involved at all?
Yeah. My mom was involved, and my mom is an amazing woman. It's hard to describe my mom, because when people hear that part of the story, like, what was your mom doing? She was trying to figure out how to feed me and my 2 brothers. Like, she was like in survival mode. And my mom, she believed so much in the Bible, like, honor thy father.
Oh yeah.
She was like, that's your dad. That's your dad. But I get my strength from my mom. My mom is my rock. My mom is like, while all that was going on, she had to figure out a way to keep clothes on us and feeding us and keeping us matriculating through school properly. Like, my mom she's a hero to me.
Was she ever put in a position where she would be the buffer between those?
I think all the time. I think she was doing that without me even knowing she was doing it. They eventually separated. Most of my childhood, they were separated. So a lot of the damage happened when she was not there. But while she was there, I think she was like this like animal And I use that phrase complimentary. Like she was like this boundary of strength between my dad and me and my two brothers. But when he separated, when he left, because I'd say so, he left. And when he left, like my mother didn't have any legal ability to stop him from seeing his kids. Like the court, like you get to see your kid. And he was just not great.
But he left, and then he didn't take you all with him. I assume he left you all with your mom, and then you all had to figure it out with your mom. And then this whole time, how is the relationship between you and your brothers? Because I don't know what the age gaps are between you three, but it's you
about
got
2 years both. I'm in the middle. My older brother's about 2 years older. My younger brother's about 2 years younger. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it's been strained at different times and at different points for different reasons. Because we all had to deal with what happened in that childhood differently. My younger brother and I were always close growing up. A little bit after college, after grad school, a little, shaky. But now we're pretty close. Mm-hmm. And my older brother, I haven't talked to him in a long time either. He struggles with some real mental health stuff, and he's not safe to talk to. But my younger brother and I, I love him. I love his family. I love being around him. It's been really healing to reconnect with him in the past couple of years. So I'm pleased with it.
Were either of the two closer to one of the two parents at all? Or was it like your dad kind of cut himself off from the family?
No, my dad, he left, but he never cut himself off. My dad needed people to control.
Sure, yeah.
So he wouldn't have just left because he needs that thing to control. My younger brother is very close to my dad to this day. My older brother, I do not know, but they stayed in contact. I was the only one to say, if you behaving like this, you can't come close.
Yeah.
They both dealt with it in very different ways.
Right. Well, you're the one who called it out for what it was, and then chose to say I'm willing to walk away from something like this because this is not benefiting me.
I was going to die. I legitimately believe I didn't have much longer in that circumstance.
You said you were in college during that point, though. So was this college not far enough away from, I guess, the abuse and emotional manipulation you were dealing with?
Absolutely not. And when you know that kind of emotional abuse, I could have gone to China. It wouldn't have mattered because he would call, he would randomly show up. I got a beeper and he would page me. To tell you the level of control, I got a beeper. I got a beeper. He found out I had the beeper, and I got beaten for not giving him the phone number to the beeper, so I gave him the phone number to the beeper, and then he would beat me, and I didn't have a phone. So if he beat me, I had to go to some other student's dorm room, borrowed a phone. And this is before cell phone, but you had these phones in people's dorm. And if I didn't call him back in what he considered a reasonable amount of time, he would call the campus police and have them come find me. And they'd be like, "Hey man, your dad is trying to get a hold of you." And I'm thinking, somebody dead? What's going on? And it would just be he just wanted to know.
Yeah, he just.
But that's the level of control. So you can't escape that.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where you live. He's going to find a way to exact that level of control until you find a way to break it.
Yeah, and he had his hooks in you to the point where he was like, I'm not aware of what he's doing, so he might be doing something I'm not a fan of.
Correct.
Which, that's complete narcissistic domination and manipulation. That's to it.
And he would position it as I care and I want to know what you're doing. And at that time he had complete control of me psychologically. So it just took me a while to break free of that.
No, for sure.
So what sparks that whole conversation is what made me become a therapist, but that's it.
No, I feel like we got to.
I'd probably be like an accountant if I had regular parenting situation, but that's not what I had, so that's not what I became.
Who knows what we would have been with regular parenting? That's a fascinating.
I think with regular parents, there would be no comedians, literally none.
Well, what's funny? I'm of the mindset that the parenting we received is more regular than people think, in the sense that I think it's irregular when I come across people who
I think that's true.
Wait, your whole family dynamic's healthy? Since forever? and it's you guys hang out every year? No, when I hear of a family that everything's chill, my mom loves me, and not even just one. It's my mom my parents love me all the way through. Just the fact that your parents have the emotional intelligence to treat you and have the capacity to treat you.
Agree.
When I hear that, I'm like, I don't call it weird, but I'm like, to me, that's way more rare than all of the emotional and mentally ill people that are living in this world who have to unlearn their psychological traumas and unlearn their generational curses. I feel like that's way more normal, but people just don't talk about it like that.
My best friend's name is Adam. Shout out to Adam, love you, bro. Him and his family still have like family meals every night. Every night. He's got a daughter in college who obviously does not attend the family meal. She's off. She lives in another state going to college, but like that girl, I think she's 19, maybe 20. Her entire life, her family had like 6 p.m. dinner at the dinner table.
On the dot?
No joke.
That's
6,
crazy.
6:30 every night. No exception. That's all she knows. She does not know mom's mad so didn't come to dinner. Dad's mad so he left. Like, she does not know anything other than we had meals every night as a family. And I talked to my best friend. I'm like, man,
what is that?
Weird. Like, what is that?
Well, it's weird also from the perspective of, because there's some families where they'll do that, but it's almost like we force it.
No.
And it's like, if everyone here is for it and enjoys it, that's the anomaly.
They go on like family vacations because they genuinely enjoy being around each other.
Crazy people.
And
psycho killers. Yeah,
and I
fucking right.
And I love them. Like, I've met them on, so like, hey, we're going on this, what he would call like an epic road trip. And he'd be like, we're going on this epic road trip. It's like, we're coming through Dallas. They live in Atlanta. So we're like driving all over the whatever. And we're going to come through Dallas. I'm like, yeah, pick me up and I'll take the rest of the ride to Atlanta. And like, it's not for, like, this family genuinely enjoys being around each other. And that's the ideal. And what I now know about human development and family dynamics and psychotherapy and emotional psychology and all the things, that's the aim. It's just so many people, because they didn't get it in their lives, they don't know that that's the aim.
No idea.
And Adam and his amazing wife Becca somehow were like, this is the aim, and they like hit the target, like, or are hitting the target, because of course it's just a work in progress. But I think you're right. I think more people have some sort of, weird story, and their lives are not easy. I don't mean to paint something like they just wake up every day and life is easy, but family is the center of what they do in an incredibly healthy way. And I'm aware I have less examples of that than I do of people who got it off target, who got it, other things happen that shouldn't be happening in family dynamics.
Yeah, I see a lot of in families who don't have that, a lot of like fake hashtag family over everything.
Yeah.
I see that in my family. so, and I'm always like, but you guys hate each other. You hate each other. And I know it's true. I've heard you talk about each other. Like, there's no way you mean this. But then, put on a happy fake face.
Yeah.
I literally did a set the other night at the Ice House where I ranted about it because it was right after Christmas. I did it on the 27th, and I was asking the crowd. And it's up on YouTube with call to action. It's up on YouTube, and I literally asked, like, how many of y'all spent time with your families, and did you, like, was it healthy and enjoyable? And it got like weirdly quiet, and I'm like, oh, are you with them right now? Like, you can't say how you feel, because I'm just like, at a certain age, you either, continue to, like, I guess fake the funk, or you genuinely have a happy, healthy family, which is great and beautiful. I've seen it, and when I see it, I'm like, I want to go to their house and hang out.
I do,
because they treat me like family.
I literally want to go to their house and hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And again, so his youngest daughter, I'm probably gonna get a lot of trouble for saying this. His youngest daughter's name is Juju. I've been around where I genuinely thought Juju is about to kill her older brother because she was upset that his foot was on the seat cushion that she was sitting on the couch. Just like typical kids. Like,
yeah.
move your foot. And, So it's not perfect. Like they're not just like, I love you, brother. Like
No, that's
like,
not real either.
no,
Yeah.
but it's like a normal family that, for lack of a better word, that just kind of gets it right. You know what I mean? And when you see them post on Facebook, you don't have that thought of like, look at that beautiful picture. But I know 5 minutes before the picture and 5 minutes after,
Right.
y'all were dysfunctional as I don't know what. But it's just, I wish that there were more examples of that. Like,
Yeah.
and I talk openly about that because we should know. And I think so many black families have been destroyed by the injustices of the system,
Sure.
ridiculous incarceration rates at a disproportionate level that have happened in the black community, all those sorts of things. So as a result, a lot of uncles weren't around, a lot of dads weren't around. So we don't grow up knowing that, oh, you can have like a family meal every night. That's like a thing. Like you can do that.
Family meal every night. We cannot keep secrets from each other.
Right.
That's what my family fucking suffers. Because and also it's like we can give knowledge to one another.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, as black people or black Americans, you know, I will say that it's almost ingrained in the bloodline from what our ancestors had to deal with coming over here.
For sure.
You know, so like there's not. And I mean, I don't want to blame it only on that because you can unlearn it and try to figure things out. But there's a lot of people who are like, I don't even think they realize that they're pushing towards that toxic stuff. They just think that I didn't get it. Why? It's like student loan debt. I ain't get it. Why the fuck do you get it?
That is, you're
That's a good little whatever the hell it is comparison. So all them people mad about student loans. Biden, how dare you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's almost like ingrained in us. It's almost like a hazing mentality. Like
Right.
I had to go through hell to get this, so damn it, you got to go through hell to get it too. But that's actually not the point of family. Like if I start a company, like a computer tech company, I call it Elliott Tech, and that thing turns into a gazillion dollars, such and such. My children should benefit from that.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think it is a bit ingrained in our society. Like I had to sweat and grind to build my tech company. You do too. I'm not giving you anything. But that's actually not how it should work.
That's quite literally not the purpose of working hard and saving for the family to come. But it's crabs in a barrel mentality. I remember one time, I think my parents told me, don't you count our money because we gonna spend it all. And I was like, I don't want your money. You all keep bringing up money. I'm trying to contribute to the conversation, and now you think I'm some sort of like a charlatan trying to get in your pockets. That's not what I want. I'm just trying to have a normal conversation, but there's nothing normal.
The very point of family is like generational, what I want to say wealth, but generational resources, whether it's information, skills, money, whatever it is. Like the very point of it is like, so I'm gonna run a little bit this far, and then because life dictates it, I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to carry it a little bit further. But what we keep doing is like, I'm gonna run this far and then die, and then you got to go start over because this is how far I ran. And it's like, no, like let's hand things down to the previous generation to make their journey through life easier and smoother and all the things. And we're just not great at that.
No, I mean, there's plenty of different groups who are terrible at it as well. But at the same time, it's almost like, in defiance where we would do it to whether it's our own families or our own people, because I think a part of us feel that I didn't get it. Why should you? And then also just, I don't know, that it's like ignorance is bliss. Cause I think something that I never really liked or appreciated that my parents did, which, I love everything that they were capable of doing, but I do have some gripes with like the idea that they made me feel like I could rely on them forever to a point, almost to a detriment. I'm like, all right, y'all, but like, y'all not going to be here forever. Like I would like think that way here and there. And when I thought about it, like when I got to a point where I wanted to have my own stuff because I was tired of being in a position of, oh, I have to ask for this, or I'm being told I'm not capable of that, or whatever, I said, all right, you gotta, while you're able to at least benefit from the resources that they do give you, I'm not gonna act like I'm not, beneficial of having a 2-parent household and a family that worked hard. I'm not gonna deny that wasn't there. But I think while I was in it, I was like, well, they don't support you as much as you support yourself. And they would rather kind of see you ask for help for the rest of your life until they're gone, and then you don't know what to do for yourself.
Right.
So then I said, all right, well, while I'm able to finally go get a little bit of individualism and freedom in college, I'm going to try to figure out what I could be doing to kind of set myself up, whether it's getting a little part-time job or figuring something out or putting forth towards passions that I want to do and see if they end up being something. And instead of what I would believe would be, wow, look at him go. That's great. He's figuring stuff out on his own. It was very much just caveats and what are you doing over there? And how about you like tell us what, like, I don't, it's not something I enjoy talking about, but my family has a very deep seated or rooted issue with money, particularly my mom and my dad. I think it's from my mom, and then she passed it on to my dad in a sense of thinking, but it was like a thing where I stopped telling them about my wins, my successes, because they were never responded to with congratulations.
Right.
Good job. Wow, you figured that? You did that? Cool. It was very much always, well, how much are they paying you? Are they paying you enough? And then my dad would try to compare what he's making as a full-on entertainer to me. I'm like, bro, I'm in the beginning. I'm going to do a lot of shit for free right now. And then my mom would then try to add to it, put salt on the wound and be like, you're making some money. You should give us some of that money. And I would be like, y'all do know y'all leave y'all bills out in the living room, right? Or in the kitchen. I'm not counting pockets, but I'm aware of how much why would you want the little chump change I got? Why, also it's just one of those things where it's like, why have children if you're not going to selflessly give to these children? But that's life.
But the concept you're talking about is actually not unique.
No, of course.
But how many times have you seen in the black families, the black kid will do something entrepreneurial? Like I've seen kids that are not black, and they'll like go rake leaves and earn $20, and the parents are like, I'm so proud of you. Let's take that $20 and put it in a piggy bank and see how much you can grow. The black kid does that, goes and rakes leaves, come on $20, and they're like, Mom, Dad, look, I've got $20. And they're met with something like, oh, you think you've grown now? So now you're bringing money into the house. So, okay, so you're just gonna buy groceries. And it's like, whoa, wait, I'm 11.
And now you got rent to pay.
and I'm just like, and we need to reinforce those activities because like I remember a story, and I just told you I wasn't very close to my older brother, but like I saw some of the shit he went through. And it's stuff like my older brother. So my dad also had an issue with money. I also think that's connected to that like kind of narcissistic personality and all that stuff, which I can get into psychologically if you want. But my father would get very upset if you asked him for something he couldn't afford. He just didn't have the ability to say, can't afford that. Or how about you save up for it? Or, whatever. He would get mad at you for asking for something he couldn't afford. And my older brother saw these Chuck Taylors, these Converse. They almost went up to your knee, and you're supposed to fold them down. And there was like a different color on the insides. When you fold it down, it's like the shoe was one color, but the folded down part was a different color. For whatever reason, my middle school age older brother loved them. Asked my dad for them. My dad gets super angry. And, you had to deal with the ramification, my dad getting angry. So my older brother gets a paper route and delivers newspaper in the neighborhood for several weeks until he gets the money to buy those shoes, and secretly goes and buys those shoes with the money he earned. Which every parent should see that and be like, that is an ambitious, individual thinking kind of thing that you would want to reinforce. I mean, he was probably 12 when he did that. Mm-hmm. My dad sees the shoes on him at a school function and lost it. And I never saw those shoes again. I don't know what happened to those shoes. My father lost it. Well, you're beating the good stuff out of the child.
Yeah.
And of course, now my brother is, 50 years old, and he's had a very difficult time holding jobs. He's just had a very difficult go of life. And I can't help but think how much of his brilliance was beaten out of him, literally beaten out of him, because there were lots of times where he did stuff like that, and it was just not only not reinforced, it was beaten out of him.
Punished.
He was punished for the things that he should have otherwise been rewarded for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just as a society, we got to think about these things, and we have to understand the whole point of family is to I got to take these emotional nutrients and give them to my child and let my child go further than I went with them, because that's the point of family. We should not be intimidated by children doing more with your last name than you did, because that's actually the point.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir, but then at the end of the day, they would have had to, I guess, work on themselves in order to see past that, because that's the thing. I'm a person who I think, and I don't know, you're obviously a professional therapist. I think that any child, young adult, whatever it is, I don't know what the age would be, but I feel like therapy should be mandatory. That's just not strap you in a chair, tell me your problems, more or maybe optional, maybe a mandatory optional. I don't know, a scenario where, hey, you're hitting these pivotal marks in life, and obviously it doesn't have to be mandatory, but I'm saying I just think that therapy would help a majority of society to a certain degree, and it might not, but in the sense of, hey, let's sit down with the things that are troubling you in this area of your life, or before you go off into this other area in your life, and just have a conversation about, what are you feeling up until now, type of thing, and try to understand yourself more. Because, at the end of the day, and I believe you would probably attest to this, is therapy's not you have a problem, sit down, let's talk. No, it's let's get to discover you better. Let's learn more about you. Let's ask questions that maybe you don't want to ask, or figure out things, you even the whole backstory you just gave, and even some of the stuff I said, let's talk about how those moments impacted you, and then how we can work on moving forward and maybe not replicating those same things. Because, you could have easily became, similar to your father in a way. If you learned it enough, you could have taken it into your relationships.
100% true.
Yeah. So I think I'm not annoyingly advocating for therapy. It's just one of those things where a lot of people, when I get a chance to sit down and talk and speak with them, I actually sit, I listen, I retain, I process, and then I ask questions that, one, may make them uncomfortable, because they're now coming face to face with someone who is willing to actually not necessarily call you out, but just say, hey, that's unfortunate that your mom, because I have friends who are comedians. I got friends, I think I mentioned this the other night. I have friends who are comedians who are so talented that don't see it for themselves, even with the receipts. They have the receipts. I've been on TV, done a special, been on network television. People have said, I want to invest in you. And they still think, my dad was like that. My dad was very much like that. I'm just a guy. And it's no, you're not to say that you need to ooze in your fame, because he would do that too, in a goofy way. He'd be like, oh no, brother, I know people love me. But more to say that it's you're so much more capable than what kind of was beaten out of you, or what was beaten into you, in the sense of a way of thinking throughout your life. And I have it too. I have days where I'm just but then I have a beautiful wife who reminds me all the time. And then I also see the proof in the pudding when I post something online, or if I book a job and people see it. I get I see the results of my work, and I have to reset my brain and be hey, all that negative self-talk, let's move. That's not real. And you have to learn how to stop doing that. Obviously you slowly unlearn it, but I think it's just one of those things where finding that within yourself is very hard. So I think people should not necessarily even, I don't know if it's go to therapy, speak with someone who actually wants to see you win. I guess there's other ways to kind of get to the baseline of it. But at the end of the day, there's just so many people who are going through life who are probably so much more capable than what life has told them, or what the people in their lives have told them. And now, that's how you unfortunately lose people early. They want to take, you just say, become suicidal, have those really dark moments where they're I don't think, it doesn't feel like anyone would care if I'm gone.
True.
So,
absolutely true.
So maybe I should just go.
Absolutely.
Because nobody's going to really worry about me.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now I know some inside things about the therapy world, so I'm not sure I would advocate for everybody to go to therapy because a lot of therapists are actually causing more harm than doing good, which
This is
a whole
possible.
nother story. But I do think therapy should just be a part of our like cultural experience. Like people should know therapy is a thing, and you have access to it if you need to. And I don't think as a culture, I don't think Black people think about it. Like that's like we just don't think about it. And I think we should, because I think the key to life, and I'm really like the key to life, is figure out what you're brilliant at, and then stubbornly hold on to that for the rest of your life. I think that is literally the key to life. And so, like your dad being like, "I'm just a guy," like, no, you're not. You're an extremely talented this. Like, and it doesn't matter what it is. There are some really talented hockey players. There are some extremely talented comedians. There are some extremely talented accountants. Like, doesn't matter what it is, but figure out that thing that like you're really good at and you're passionate about and you love and you know you're good at it. And be like, this is my thing, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life stubbornly holding on to that. I genuinely believe that's the key to life, because there's going to be a lot of people telling you you shouldn't be doing that. You can't make any money doing that. Like when I decided to major in psychology, even now, I cannot tell you how many times people have told me that I couldn't do the thing that I was seeking out to do, or I shouldn't do it. Like, you can't make any money with a degree in psychology. I heard that the whole time I was getting a degree in psychology.
From people who don't know shit about psychology.
Right. And then when I was in graduate school getting a job in psychotherapy, you can't make money in psychotherapy. And then when I was a psychotherapist making money, they were like, you ain't going to be able to do that forever. And then I started like a training company to teach people how to do the kind of therapy that I do. You're not going to be able to teach people how to do that. You can't do that online. And which to me,
start doing it online.
The funniest thing is like another little secret to people. The world, technology is a one-way street. The world never gets less technical. It always gets more technical. So around, 2014, around the time I founded my training company, I start noticing people putting content online. The world does not get less technical. It always gets more technical. So I start trying to put my content online, and everyone would tell me, no one's going to learn psychotherapy online. People don't want to learn psychotherapy online. It's an in-person service, so the training needs to be in person. But I know, like, nope, I'm going to build this library of stuff. Everybody was telling me that I shouldn't do it. People in my field were telling me I was devaluing the field. And I mean, it was crazy. And then what happened? COVID happened. And then all of a sudden, everything was online.
Now you're the only one who got the online ready to go.
I was the only one with online ready to go. I was the only one with platform. I was the only one with the systems in place. And my company 10x'd overnight. And I was like, at every turn, people, when I said I wanted to write a book, you can't write a book. Literally. So like whatever your thing is.
You got a lot of haters in your life, my man.
Bro.
A lot of haters.
Bro, you don't even know.
Jesus Christ.
You don't even know. But I think it's about figuring out what your thing is and just being stubborn about it. Just like literally, like we were talking about video games. Like how many kids somewhere out in the world are playing video games and everybody's telling them, you're wasting your life. Stop playing all those video games. Like,
listen,
like
I would not be doing half of the stuff I'm doing. And I'm talking about I booked TV jobs and or worked with no. I think if someone has an interest in anything, you should always support it.
That's what I'm saying. That's
it.
Exactly my point.
Period. I don't care what it is.
And you're gonna have naysayers. You're gonna have haters. You have to be stubbornly hold on to it. I was listening to I Am Speed.
I Show Speed.
I Show Speed. Whatever that guy's name is.
Speed. He's popping.
He was doing an interview and he makes like $20 million a year.
He's making plenty of money.
Something insane. Literally like that's not an exaggeration. Literally in the neighborhood of $20 million a year. He's 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I believe, I'm going to screw this up because I didn't realize to be talking about it. It was a couple weeks ago. I saw this, but like his mom told him, you either have to stop playing video games or get out. And he chose to move in with somebody else and continue doing this video game stuff. Imagine if he was like, oh man, all right, I'll stop playing. He's literally sacrificing a $20 million a year job at the age of 21, right? So you're going to have that stuff. You just have to whatever you're interested in, just make your life about that.
Yeah, it's also weird because there are parents who encourage it now because they see the proof in the pudding with others. Obviously, they're not all going to become I Show Speed or Kai Cenat or Mr. Beast, any of them. But it's one of those things where like we talked about, some of them it's like just kind of the old guard not liking change, like your scenario with your work. And then there's just some people who want they I don't know, there's some people just don't, I don't know, they get jealous of you finding your happiness and finding your passion at like I mean I was never in a position where I was jealous of anybody. No, if anything, I remember my younger brother found his passion in his teens, which he's like 8 years younger than me. So he found his passion like at 14. He was very into music. He was a basketball player like most kids are growing up. And then he got to a point where he sat back and was like, I'm not getting taller, but I do love music. And I remember sitting back saying, I'm envious of the fact that you know what you want to do. And also you are the second born child. So mom and dad are throwing all they love at you to do what you want to do. I got a different scenario because they were a little bit more old school with me. But at the end of the day, I will say that at the end of the day, both of my parents did allow us to follow our passions, which I will say is, I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing if I didn't at least have the green light to do that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm very much against anyone telling, especially someone who still is like living with whimsy in them, like a child or a young adolescent. I'm like, you got to let them dream, man, because it's crazy to me that you would say no when literally in the curriculum it used to say you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up, but all of a sudden you hit 18 and they like, I don't know if you can still do that shit.
And it's that has actually never been more true than it is right now. You can literally become, if I was like a 12-year-old kid and I love turtles, I could literally just post turtle shit on Instagram. I could make a video of me looking for turtles in the pond near my home and post that on YouTube. And that could be the thing. Like, it has never been more true. You could literally be anything you want. Mm-hmm. But just the world, like, if you want to get haters, go out into the world with confidence and joy.
Oh, of course.
Because the world is so miserable, your confidence and joy will trigger people. And I am someone with a tremendous amount of confidence. And I got my people ask me all the time, where'd you get your confidence? I don't think I'm better than anyone. I have confidence, not hubris. But my confidence came from, I literally walked to the edge of death. So now it's like, no, I just want to love and live my life. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I am. And I love me. And I love enjoying this process. And that will trigger people because most people don't know who they are. Most people are trying to please other people around them. And I'm not trying to do any of that. I am here because I want to love my life. And I want to inspire other people to love theirs and live their very best life. And that alone will trigger people. Yeah. Like, who does Elliott think he is? Like, I can't.
How dare he help people think better and have self-help within their life?
Right.
How dare he? No, that's very crazy. It is crazy.
But that's the world.
When you did get to the point of starting to go towards your career and your passion, and you're in college, you're going through it. How did you choose? I guess. Well, you knew that you chose therapy, but was there like a pivotal moment where you chose like the type of therapy you like to teach?
For sure. So this should scare people.
Okay.
But in graduate school, you don't learn how to help people. You learn how to assess them. And let me give you an example of what that is and what I mean by that. Imagine if you were trying to learn a skill, any skill, shooting a basketball, and the person is just missing every shot. And the only thing you do is explain to them why they're missing it. That's actually not helping them, right? So if you come to me with an addiction and I'm like, you have that addiction because of this. Your dad was not around, your mom was not around, your dad was abusive, your mom was abusive, whatever. Like, here's the driver to your addiction. That's not helpful. And that's all we learn. We learn how to assess and diagnose. So when I was there, I was like, but when do we get to the part where like we help people heal?
Right.
And that never was a part of the conversation. And then one day, my university hired this professor, and she started talking about hope. And it really resonated with me because hope is actually what helped me heal from my journey. And I was like, ooh, I want to talk to clients about hope. Where can I learn that? And when you're in grad school, you learn all these theories of stuff. And the theory that's based on hope it's called solution-focused brief therapy. And it was literally 2 pages of one of the millions of books we had to read in graduate school. And I was like, that's how I want to do this. Like, I want to talk to people about hope and to give people, let me tell you all how strong hope is. There's a story about hope that demonstrates literally the power of hope. It's a true story, but there was this extremely wealthy man in Florida, in the Miami area of Florida. And he had a black woman that was his, like, I hate to use the word maid, but, his home helper, whatever. And she was retiring. And he said, you have, served me well over the course of however many decades. I want to say thanks. And she said, I don't want anything, but I want you to do something for my neighborhood. So this man thought for a long time, like, what can I do for her neighborhood? And what he did was he went to her neighborhood and he went to all of the families in that neighborhood. And he said, if your children graduate from high school, I will pay for them all to go to college. Every single one of them, I'll pay for their entire college experience. And there were like 50 families, let's say. And again, that's no exaggeration. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 families. He said this to all of them. The neighborhood in which he was talking, the average high school graduation rate was 25%. Of the families that he spoke to, 100% of them went to college. Now, why is that? Because they knew how it was going to be paid for. He literally just increased hope. Jalen Rose, he has something called the Jalen Rose Academy in Detroit. He has a 100% graduation rate because he talks to these kids about the bright future that they could then have. Mm-hmm. Hope is an incredibly powerful thing. And when I learned about hope, I was like, I don't want to do this diagnosis and assessment thing. I want to do that. You and I both know a whole lot of comics that have been in Hollywood, right, toiling around these comic stages for years and years and years. And they're making little to no money doing it. Why are they doing it? Because they hope one day they'll do that one set that changes their life. Somebody will be in the audience and everything will be different from that moment. Like, hope is an incredibly powerful thing. So when I learned about this approach that was based on hope, I was like, I want to do that. And I learned it was kind of like this like small, obscure part of the field, but it was the only thing that really let me on fire. So when I got out of graduate school, I was like, there needs to be more attention on this. I wrote a book about it and people started asking me to travel and lecture about it. And before I know it, it's no longer the sort of small part of the field. It's now a much more bigger thing. And then not solely because of me, but largely because of me, because I built a large following and I train 5,000 to 10,000 therapists a month on how to do this. But for me, hope is the single most powerful thing in the world.
Well, hearing you say that, because I remember when you did, I think, explain to me that because I remember I was like, oh, you're a therapist when we first met and we were talking about it. And then you were like, yeah, but I do. And I have it right here, solution-focused brief therapy. And I was like, I think, because like you just mentioned a second ago, you were saying most of the time we diagnose and assess.
Yes.
And as someone who's been in therapy, I will say that is kind of what I'm used to. I'm used to, therapist diagnosing what the problem is. Okay, let's assess the problem, speak about the problem, process it, and move on to the next diagnosis, or try to grow from that specific thing. And then also, how do we make space for this thing? How do we set a boundary to cut this thing out? Or I don't know all the specific terms. I'm thinking about how I've dealt with therapy.
Doing fine.
And I will say that I don't know how often or how many therapists specify these different types of genres of therapy, but I do know that I did have like a small stint with my old therapist where we spoke about it was more me kind of not believing in myself. And I remember I had a few sessions where I'm like, yeah, I'm just not, I don't know. I don't know if this is this way. And it was very much just negative self-talk. And again, all right, we're assessing that this is what you're doing. How can we avoid that and get you thinking the other way? But there was never like a foundation of, well, how do we integrate hope into there? Or how do we integrate optimism? Or how do we integrate prosperity? Because you're capable. I know you're capable. How do we then take that to the next level? I'm very fascinated by what you're talking about, because I can't lie to you. It sounds like some made up shit. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying, obviously not saying it is, but I can see from the way I've been taught over the years, and by generational curses and just thought processes, and then also you having come across people who have told you no, 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 and not to say that that's what I'm saying, more to say that I can see why people would say that.
They do.
Yeah.
But the thing that fascinates me, and what literally lights me on fire, is go pay attention. Let's take the world of comedy, which you're expert in. When you leave here and you go to the comedy clubs, and some nights you'll be performing, other nights you'll be observing, watch how many times people do things simply because that's the way it's always been done. Mm-hmm. They've put no critical thinking as to does this work? Is this effective? Does this get the outcome that I am seeking? I'm only doing this because it's the way it's always been done. And I would put psychotherapy in that ballpark. So here, JD walks into my office and he's like, hey, I'm having some kind of self-doubt beliefs. Well, the way we've always done that is tell me about the self-doubt beliefs. But what if we just flipped it? What if I said to you, what's the opposite of self-doubt? And you said confidence or whatever, belief in myself. And if I said to you, JD, suppose you woke up tomorrow with the highest level of self-belief that you could imagine, what's the first thing you would notice? When you describe what you would notice, you're literally programming your brain, literally forming neural pathways that weren't there before associated with self-belief. And the brain does this really interesting thing. So if you said, I'd wake up and I've had water instead of soda. When you wake up tomorrow and you have water, your brain associates this with the new neural pathway of self-confidence. Mm-hmm. So you'll get up and you'll have water and your brain's going to go, I know this. We talked about this yesterday. I'm going to drink water and it's going to lead to self-confidence. And let me tell you how powerful the brain is about stuff like this. And everyone watching this will understand this. Have you ever purchased a car? And you went to the dealership, looked at the car you want, a Mercedes, a Lexus, Tesla, whatever. And you're like, okay, I want that one. And then literally when you pull it off the lot, you're like, holy shit, everyone drives the car I just bought. I didn't notice that before, but wow, everyone drives a white Tesla. All of a sudden there's a bazillion of the car. It's because your brain got programmed to notice it
right
now. And that's what happened. So I could literally program your brain to look for signs of the thing you want, in this case, confidence, simply by talking to you about it. Well, the fascinating thing is on the flip side of that, we keep people sick simply by talking about their problem because we're programming their brain to notice the problem. And it's a huge disservice we do to clients. If the only way you can tell if you're healed is if the problem you've identified is removed. And the reason that's a huge disservice is in order for you to notice that the problem is removed is you have to look for the problem and not find it. But what human doesn't have self-doubt? So if you look for the self-doubt, you will always find it. Even if it has shrunk this big, you're going to find it. You're going to come back to my office, you're going to say, still got that self-doubt shit. But if I say, well, let's suppose you wake up tomorrow with supreme confidence, what would you notice? You're probably going to say, well, I would drink water instead of soda, and then eventually you're going to say to me, well, at some point a self-doubting thought would come in. And I would say, and when a self-doubt thought does come up, what would you do with it that honors the confident version of JD? And you would say something like, I wouldn't listen to it. Mm-hmm. So now you've programmed your brain what to do when a very human thing happens, which is to have self-doubt pops up. And you're literally telling yourself what to do. And that's a much more kind of level of functioning that leads to an outcome than look for the absence of a problem. Because in order to look for the absence of a problem, you have to still be attending to the problem. And that is the fastest way to maintain a problem. There's no other. That is literally the quickest way to maintain a problem is look for its absence.
Yeah, it's like giving it power to a certain degree. Yeah.
Anything you attend to has power. So if you want confidence, then we now have to attend to the confidence because that's the thing that's going to grow.
True, because when you do start thinking that way, then it's almost like you don't need to focus on the absence of anything because it's not there to begin with. You're
right.
And if it does pop up, you're too focused on being confident, being focused, getting what you need done.
That's absolutely
right. No, for sure.
People ask me, so as you know, I've done stand-up comedy a few times for a year and a half or so. And the first time I ever did stand-up comedy was to a sold-out audience at the San Jose Improv.
It's a big fucking room too. That's so funny. That's not a normal way to start. Normal way to
I've
start.
had many comics tell me no. Well, one comedy club didn't believe me. Tiffany had to call the club and be like, no, Elliott's telling truth. This is literally how his comedy career started.
Tiffany Haddish, by the way, because through, I think, our surrogate grandma, Fern. I believe that's how you met?
That's how I met Tiffany.
But through our surrogate white auntie, Fern.
We all call her our Fernie godmother.
Our Fernie godmother. That is. But no, she introduced you to Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany,
And then Tiffany Haddish. I don't mean to segue, but how did, I guess, you meeting Tiffany turn into you got to do stand up?
She kept telling me. She kept saying it.
Regardless of what, just in through conversation?
Yeah. Well, she was executive producing one of my TV shows, and we'd have all these meetings, and Tiffany and I got very close. And she'd be like, "You're really funny. You should try stand up." And I'm like, Tiffany, I'm a counselor. I'm a psychotherapist. Like, I ain't doing that. And she was like, "No, you for real should do it." Like, Tiffany, and for a year, I'd be like, "Tiffany, no." And then one day, and I would come to LA, and Tiffany's amazing. And sometimes she would call me and be like, "Hey, I'm doing a show. You want to come? Meet me at the Laugh Factory, meet whatever." And there's one night she called me, and I'll never forget. I had just gotten in bed. And people don't believe me, but when I come to LA, sometimes it's just boring. Like I come to LA, I didn't know anybody at the time. So like I'll go to the meetings during the day about my shows and that kind of thing. Then I'm at my hotel room after dinner.
Business, yeah.
And then I'm sitting in my hotel room watching. So this one night I'm literally in my hotel room. I'd get undressed. I'm climbing into bed. Tiffany calls me. "I got a show in Malibu. Do you want to come?" Sure. She's like, "All right, I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to go." So Tiffany comes and picks me up. We go all the way to Malibu. It's about a 45-minute hour drive from LA. And we get to the club. I'll never forget this. We get to the club. And the guy hosting that night was like an internet celebrity comic and was new to the stage.
Yeah, I don't recommend that route, but that's just me.
Right. But you know, a lot of comics did that. Like they got internet sensational during COVID.
Yeah, we call them. I mean, listen, no disrespect to any people who are popping off the internet. I worked in tandem in my career where I started as a traditional entertainer, and then the internet just was a side thing that turned into a bigger thing. But coming straight from the internet, when you're like somebody making skits, I call them internet funny people. That's what I like to call them. Because I can't throw the word comedian at you either, because I'm like, well, I mean, you make comedic skits, maybe you work in the craft of comedy, but to me, you're an internet funny person. I got internet funny people videos, but I'm also a stand-up. Like,
well, this,
and I'm,
this dude, and I liked it. We follow each other on social media. I met him that night, and he was funny. He was great, but he was nervous, and it was his first night hosting. And we're sitting in the green room, and Tiffany was like, "He's really nervous. It's bugging me." And
that's some big dog shit.
Yeah,
I got it.
And I don't know nothing. And I said to Tiffany, "Do you want me to introduce you?" And Tiffany goes, "Yeah, that'd be great." Of course, no problem. I would do that. Because in my head, being completely green, I thought I'm going to walk out on stage and be like,
next,
and Tiffany Haddish. Yeah. You know, she's the star of this movie, that movie, and this movie, and Tiffany Haddish. And she would come out. That's what I thought introducing was.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, of course, Tiffany, that's no problem. Now remember, she's been nudging me to do stand-up comedy
you accidentally
for like the year prior. And we're at this random club in Malibu, which it's right where the fires were. So shout out to that club because it probably burned down.
R.I.P.
Yeah. So she turns to me and she says, "You know, that means you're gonna have to open for me." And I was like,
that's a gotcha moment. She's like, so you want to really?
So I was like, what does that mean? And she said, you have to do 5 to 10 minutes of stand up. And then I was like, oh, never mind. I ain't doing that. No, I'm not doing
That's
that.
a very rational response, by the way, to in the moment.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Now, Tiffany, one of her brilliances, and I'm telling you, you need to study. I really do want to study human beings like Tiffany, people who have made their dreams come true, because one of her brilliances, what you just said, JD, I love you for saying it, because it's a really rational response.
It's
literally,
rational.
I could argue that Tiffany is the most successful female comic to ever walk the planet. I could make that argument. Mm-hmm. And she is telling me that I got to do 5 to 10 minutes of stand-up to open for her. And I had never done this before. So my immediate rational response was, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
You are literally the GOAT. Not happening. I'm not going up 5 minutes before the GOAT. Mm-hmm. Not going to do that. So the other guy does it, and he does a fine job. I don't want to shit on this dude. He does a fine job.
No, of course.
We get in the car and the night goes great. Tiffany kills the room. I mean, it's just crazy. We get in the car to go home, and Tiffany looks at me, and she's like, I'm so shocked you didn't do it. Because one of her brilliances, her brain does not see limitations.
Right.
I literally cannot explain it. But limitations are a very rational thing. Tiffany's brain doesn't see them.
Yeah.
Like if you tell Tiffany, like I'm at the very greenest of green of my comedy career. If I said to Tiffany, I want a Netflix special. If I said that to most of the people, they'd be, man, it's going to take a lot of years. Tiffany's brain just doesn't do that. It's like, oh, you want a Netflix special? Let's go.
Yeah.
And she doesn't see the obstacles, the hurdle. Like to her, they're irrelevant, which I think explains how she's overcome so many challenges in her life and how she's achieved so much greatness, because she has a way of making obstacles irrelevant. And she did not understand how I was being rational. And she was really like, I thought you were the kind of person that would just try anything.
Yeah.
And I said, Tiffany, you're the GOAT. Like there may not have ever been a female comic ever walking the planet as proficient at comedy as you. I've never done this before.
Right.
How could you not see that it's a reasonable no? And her brain just didn't see it. So I said to her, all right, Tiffany, I'll tell you what. Because I wanted her respect, right? I wanted her to like look at me as one of her. And I said, I'll tell you what, Tiffany, if you ever ask me again, I'll do it. And she said, you promise? I said, yeah, I promise. She said, okay. And then a few months go by. The strike happens. So Tiffany's got a lot more downtime than she otherwise would have. And I was doing a training in Anaheim, and Tiffany called. She's like, hey, I'm going to pull up. I'm going to come to your training. I'm like, no, you ain't. Like, you're not coming to a psychotherapy training. And that woman sits still for 10 seconds. She's not sitting through this. But she did, man. She showed up, which was also kind of funny. Like, talk about like a baller moment, like a flex in the therapy world. I'm sitting there in this like therapy training, and Tiffany Haddish walks in the back of the room, and they're all like, is that who I think it is? So I got to stop teaching. All right, everybody, will you go say hi?
Yeah.
And she sat there the whole morning. And then during lunch, she was like, you don't know it, but you're doing stand-up. Mm-hmm. She called me later that night, and she said, I have a show in San Jose. I need an opener. I'd like you to open. And I was like, fuck. Because I told her I would not turn her down. So I agreed to do it. And I talked to another comic, a guy I have a lot of respect for, a guy named Justin Hires. Mm-hmm. And I told him, like, I'm going to go do stand-up. Never done this before. It's like, bro, you can't do that. Justin got me booked at an open mic night at a club out here in LA called the Comedy Chateau. Mm-hmm. I did 3 minutes at the Comedy Chateau. And then a couple days later, I travel up to San Jose. And I'll never forget, I get to San Jose. I check into the hotel. And Tiffany's team was like, meet us in the lobby at 6. I'm literally wearing a sweatsuit, similar to the one I'm wearing now. Mm. And Tiffany walks out of the elevator looking like she was dipped in fairy dust. I mean, this woman looks like the movie star that she is. And at that moment, I'm like, I think I fucked up. Because if she looks like that, this has got to be like a big show. So we get in the car to drive over to the San Jose Improv. And I turned to Tiffany and I said, how many people are going to be there? And she goes, just like this, I promise you. She looked right at me. She goes, and I said, That ain't an answer. And she said, Elliott, that's not the right question. I said, Tiffany, what's the right question? She said, the number of people that would be there isn't as important as how many times you have to do it. I said, Tiffany, how many times do I have to do this? And she went, and her road manager turns to me and says, we have 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow, and 1 show on Sunday. And I'm like, I got to do 5 times? I've never done this before. And I said, and how many people going to be there? To the road manager. He said, it's sold out. How many people is that? He's like, to be honest, I don't know how many this venue holds. Now, if y'all have never been to the San Jose Improv, it is a proper theater.
Yeah.
Like they have the lower level. They have the balcony.
I think they redid it. I believe.
They've got the balcony. They've got like the like rich people seats on the side, like the Abe Lincoln was shot in them seats, And when you walked in, when you walk into a sold out sporting event, you hear voices, like the rustle of people talking. This is packed. There's like 800 people in here. I've never done comedy before. I'm freaking out. And a solution-focused mindset helped me because people ask me all the time, how did you do it? Well, I asked myself, now you could think about the problem or the limitations. Never done this before. How am I going to do this? But what I was thinking was, I have made people laugh before. I have been on stages before. So even though I've never done it in this functionality, like I've done this.
Yeah, you're 2 for 3 right there.
Lots of times.
Yeah.
And that's all I thought about. And I walked out on stage and 5 times, smashed, totally smashed. So I say all of that to say, like, if you look at the limitations, you're just going to experience more fear.
Yeah.
But if you look at the possibilities, and all I could think was, at the end of this night, I can't lose. I'm either going to do a good job of the comedy, which would be amazing, or I'm going to have a hell of a story. How many people get to say they opened for someone like Tiffany Haddish? Even if it bombs and I gotta go up on stage 5 times this weekend and get pelted by tomatoes and booze.
Yeah, tell us a story. I mean, I bombed 5 times, but I was there.
For the rest of my life, I get to say I was up on stage with that monster of a comedian. Man, this is going to be a hell of a story. And because of that, I had no fear or no hesitation and none of that. And think about that in the context of a client experience, because that was me overcoming fear and limitations to do comedy. But how many people like have fear about getting clean and sober, or have fear about living life without depression, anxiety, or whatever the thing is? And what solution focused brief therapy is designed to do is help you focus on possibilities and not limitations. And I think Tiffany Haddish is a great example of this. The woman has 0 clinical training, but her brain does not do it. It is the weirdest thing to watch her go through life. We were hanging out with a rapper one time. I don't know if I should say his name, but we were hanging out with a rapper, and he had done like some video project, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to submit this for an Oscar, but I don't think it's long enough." And Tiffany does not see limitations. She picked up her phone, Googled like how you get an Oscar in this category. And she was like, no, it's long enough. I just saw it. Then she calls someone she knows at the Academy. And she's like, what do you need to do to submit this? The guy tells her, like, here's what you need to do to submit a thing. And that guy was like, because her brain doesn't see stop signs. It's the weirdest thing. And to be honest, I spend my whole career teaching people how to not see stop signs, how to focus on possibilities. Tiffany has an amazing innate ability to do it. And I want to help other people do it.
Do you think that she gets that from, because I mean, I know that she came up in the foster care system and whatnot, and I'm not sure how many people were around her limiting her beliefs. I'm sure there probably were at a young age, but I wonder if there was just a point where she kind of said, I've got to do what I got to do to make things work, and I've got to just be confident in trying everything. Because even the other night, I think you mentioned the thing where she was on that cruise with the class, and Kim Whitley told her you should do stand up, and she's like, all right. And
Yeah.
obviously she was already in it, but
Right.
it's one of those things where like, because I've also met people like that where they're not afraid to try anything. Yeah. They just go head first and they're like, well, what's the worst thing is I don't do it. That's the worst thing. The
Right.
worst thing is saying no to it.
Yeah. Tiffany, I think she earned this skill through hardship. I mean, she grew up in foster care. She's been through a lot. Like, I think she earned that skill through hardship for sure. But it is just part of her. Like, I asked her one time, because you talked about the comedy showcase. I was under the impression that you guys, the JD Witherspoons, the Tiffany Haddishes, the Kate McKinnons, you did the comedy showcase, and then like you walked out of the building to people just throwing contracts at you.
They made it sound like that, but no, it wasn't exactly
But
like
that's
that.
not how
But I mean, to a certain degree, it's not like that. But you do start getting emails, like within minutes of it ending.
But here's why this is relevant though, because I said to Tiffany, "Was that the big break?" And Tiffany said, "Kind of," because when you get out of the showcase, you are like invited to auditions.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, well, that's a big break." She said, "Yeah, kind of." And I said, "Well, how many auditions did you go to before you got casted?" And she said 260.
Yeah.
And what blows me away, and this speaks to that mentality that honestly I want everybody to embody in whatever like field of work they do it in, because it impacts your whole life, is like that means 259 times Tiffany had to hear no and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And in LA, those of you who don't know, they don't say no. They say, "You're too black. You're too ghetto. You're too tall. You're too short. You're too thick. You're too skinny." Like they say no with a gut punch. And Tiffany had to endure 259 of those before the 260th, which I believe was a Carmichael show, said yes.
Right.
And I asked her, "How did you do that?" She's like, "I just kept looking at where I was going." And that is what we all have to do. It's like, just keep looking at where you're going. Now, Tiffany was going towards, I want to be on television acting and making people laugh. That's a very important thing to Tiffany. She likes to bring joy to the world. But like, what if the thing you're focused on is sobriety? Like, just keep looking at the sobriety and you're going to keep moving in that direction. But most people are distracted by the obstacles and thus trip. The other metaphor that we use in the psychotherapy world, or in my work, is if you're a good hurdler, you don't look at the hurdles.
Yeah.
Good hurdlers look at the finish line. And they memorize how many steps and kicks it takes to get to the finish line. And all hurdlers will tell you the moment you look at the hurdles, you trip over them. Well, life is the same way. The moment you look at the self-doubt, you will trip over it. Mm-hmm. So I have to help you identify what's your finish line. And then we're going to like focus on the finish line and like noticing the progress towards the finish line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot more sense hearing it that way, because it's the same way with like a basketball player. It's like, if you know how to hoop, you're not looking down when you're dribbling.
No, exactly.
No, like you're looking at the basket and you're looking around the court for the best opportunity to get your team a score or whatever.
That's right. Before we sat down for this podcast, we were talking about the man who ruined basketball, Steph Curry.
Hey, bro, he's nice though. Curry ain't do that. Curry hoops.
But if you watch Steph Curry play basketball, there are times he will shoot without looking at the rim.
Yeah.
Or at least without looking at the rim before he set up the shot. Mm-hmm. And they asked him once, "Why don't you look at the rim?" And he was like, "Because it's in the same place all the time." Steph Curry is not looking at the ball or the defender. He just knows where the rim is. So it's like, why do I have to look at it?
That's a crazy bar. It's not. The rim don't move.
Yeah, it's like the rim.
So why? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why I shoot it like that? And he be flinging that. All right, y'all, let's get back down the court.
That's part of his famously fast, quick release.
Yeah,
is because he doesn't have. The rim is not a part of his setup, which is fascinating. And he explains, because it didn't move. I know exactly where the rim is in relation to where I am on the court. Like, that's how well that man knows his craft.
Yeah.
So, like, the obstacles are really irrelevant when you train your brain to just focus on the outcome. And that's what I do, is help people focus. I help people identify and focus on the outcome, which is a much more effective way to create change than just talking about the problem.
Absolutely. To me, hearing that makes me think about people who aren't aware of what their finish line is.
Oh, and there's lots of them.
Yeah, because I say that as someone who sometimes sits down and like, because I don't know, I think it's almost from the perspective of you need to be a lot more intentional with what your finish line is, or what your goal is. Even if it doesn't necessarily finish, you should have an idea of like, all right, what are we going towards?
Correct, 100%.
Because like, obviously you're not, if we don't know what we're going towards, then all we have is obstacles in front of us.
Bang.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like. Listen, your boy learning therapy. I might have to start teaching. I'm just kidding.
but think about how stupid that is, right? Like, most people, they are not aware of their finish line, but they're aware of what they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you'll go to therapy and I don't want to feel like this, but I don't really know how I want to feel. And part of my job is help you identify that. And that to me is crazy. Like, for example, you would never get into a cab ever. And the cab driver turn to you and say, "Where would you like me to take you?" You would never say, "Not here."
Yeah.
Right? You would never say that. That makes no sense. And it gives the cab driver no ability to take you to a desirable destination. Well, psychotherapy works the same. People come to my office all the time and in essence say, "Not here. I don't want to feel like this." And I have to help them articulate, but how do you want to feel? Which is why if you had walked into my office, and using the example that you gave earlier, if you had walked into my office and said, "I've got a lot of self-doubt," the first question I would have asked you is, what would you like instead? Because I have to know what's the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say, 9 times out of 10, you would say, "I don't know." Because you're so focused on removing the self-doubt.
Yeah.
That when I said, "What do you want instead?" You'd be like, "I don't know. I didn't think about that."
What Tiffany Haddish got? I want some of that blind confidence. God damn it! Let me
that's a wonderful answer. When you said I want blind confidence, I would say, if you woke up tomorrow with it, how would you know you had it?
Yeah.
And you would say, well, the first thing I would do is, the first thing I would think is, and I would ask you crazy questions like, how does J.D. Witherspoon with blind confidence get dressed? And you'd be like, what do you mean? I was like, well, if you woke up tomorrow with blind confidence, as you're putting on your clothes, how would you know you were doing that with blind confidence? And the more you answer, you're literally conditioning your brain to experience blind confidence.
Yeah, these are very unique. Like hearing it out loud, it makes so much more sense off of what you're saying. But yeah, but even everyone's got to want to even get to that step, which is even knowing they want something like this for themselves.
But I think everybody does. They just don't know it. Because we're so conditioned. Like how many comics do you think? And this is a genuine. I literally don't know what you're going to say to this. But how many comics go up on stage to kill versus to not bomb?
That's a great question. There's way more to not bomb.
Right.
Yes.
Which is what I would assume, because that's human nature.
Because I'm in the mindset of like, boy, I'm going up there to have fun. Anytime I go on stage, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what that crowd thinks. That's me though. Because and especially in certain institutions or certain comedy clubs, there's certain, like I see comics get off stage doing a great job and be like, I guess it wasn't. And I'm like, why is that the first thought? First thought is how many of them jokes had pops or big laughs? That's me though. And also, even if I feel like it wasn't strong, if I got out of it what I wanted, if I got out of it what I wanted, that was my goal. That's how I look at it.
See, and I would say that's a healthier way. Like you got to go up on that stage with a desirable outcome instead of a fear. And the reason I asked you that without honestly knowing what you were going to say, I have a very small sample size because I'm going to these comedies. But I know from my observation, most comics are like, I hope I don't bomb.
Yeah.
And you should go up there with a desirable outcome instead of a fear, which is I'm going up there to have fun. Or I'm going up there to such and such. So then when you do it, then you'll know like that was a good set because I achieved the aim in which I saw. And sometimes the aim is different. Tony Rock to me is one of the most brilliant comics. He's literally my favorite comic to watch. Now that I understand the nuances of comedy, he's someone that is doing the craft, in my opinion, at a very high level. The first time I saw him, I was extremely disappointed. The first time I saw him live, like I had seen him on stuff, TV and whatever before, but the first time I saw Tony Rock live, it was at the Laugh Factory on like a Tuesday night. And I'm like, oh, Tony Rock, that's a big name. And that might have been the first like big name I saw other than Tiffany Haddish at a small, the Laugh Factory's not super huge. And it's like, I'm watching in an intimate setting, this dude, and I'm about to be blown away. He was telling jokes, and then he would pick up his phone and he'd be like, and then he would tell another joke, and he would look at his phone. It was almost like he was writing notes with his finger.
Yeah.
And then he would tell another joke, and I was like, I expected him to be prepared.
You caught him on an off night. Not that I hear you.
His aim that night wasn't to have a perfect show. His aim was he was working out content.
Yep.
Later that same week, Tiffany happened to be performing at the Comedy Store. And in Tiffany fashion, it's like, you want to come? I was like, sure. And I didn't know, all the comics are backstage. I'm sitting in the audience. I don't know who's there. And Tony Rock walks out. And I'm with my business partner. And I turn to her and I'm like, this dude ain't even funny.
That's crazy.
Like, I'd seen him before on TV. Man, I saw him live. He was dude whack. I was bent over crying that night. And I realized because now it's Saturday night at the Comedy Store, his aim that night was to kill. His aim that Tuesday night wasn't to kill. His aim was very different. Now, and if he had gotten on stage, I said, did you have a good set? He would be like, yes, because I accomplished the thing I wanted to accomplish, which was like I was working out material. On Saturday night, if I said, you have a good set? He'd be like, yeah, I destroyed this room.
He would have said, did you see it?
I was literally, you ever go to a comic, you laughing so hard, you're like, I need you to stop telling jokes for a minute so I can like catch my breath. That's what Tony was that night. And I was like, what happened? like you were completely different dudes, but he had completely different aims. And I think people should go through life. Now I'm using comedy as an example of this phenomena, but people should go through life with an aim. You should go through life with the thing you are in pursuit of instead of a fear. Like when I was in graduate school, I was trying to get A's. I wasn't trying to avoid F's. They're very different mentalities. When I was a baseball player, I was trying to get hits. I wasn't trying to avoid strikeouts. They're very different mentalities. And psychologically, if I wake up tomorrow, I should be trying to get happiness instead of trying to avoid depression. Right? Those are two completely different mentalities.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. That God, you're hitting the nail on the head with this one. I'm getting a lot of free game on this one. I'm loving this. All right. Give me 1 second. My camera died.
Yes.
Or it didn't die, but it All right. Hello, man. Fuck, bro. Having one of the most interesting conversations ever, and all of it not necessarily lost, but who knows what happened. I'm here with my friend Elliott Connie. He is a therapist. He specializes in solution-focused brief therapy. He's getting a goddamn intro right now, just in case I fuck up. But no, we were having a great conversation for at least an hour and like 40 minutes and talking about all types of stuff, and we were deep. And we're probably just going to continue from where we were and just, maybe do a Cliff Notes version of some of the stuff we were talking about. But this is salvaging said conversation just so we have something to talk about, but also in the future we'll sit down and we'll if anything I'll have all the questions ripe and ready to go specifically from where we were. But I feel like we had a lot of conversation speaking about his background in therapy. We talked about how he's become a comedian and has been almost forced onto the stage by Tiffany Haddish, who is a friend and fellow comedian. So, we're in an interesting place. I think I will, instead of rolling backwards at all, I think just say if you could maybe give like your summary of solution-focused brief therapy, so people who are now possibly tuning in, depending on if this, if I could edit together what we recently had, have an idea of what it is that you specialize in, just from that perspective of, I guess, explaining it to a degree. You know
what's funny? It's a hard thing to explain, and I was so pleased with the way I explained it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I was actually thinking to myself,
I can give a gist of how I see it.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I think I did a really good job of explaining this.
We finally found the
kind of
definition.
odd thing. But what it really is, it's a way of doing therapy that helps people focus on the outcome they want to achieve as opposed to the problem that brought them into therapy. And it's an important shift because, and I didn't say this before and I'll say it now, focusing on limiting problems will never work because unless you are perfect, and no one is perfect, you will always have a problem to focus on eliminating, which will make you not satisfied with life.
Yeah.
So why don't we just accept there are problems and instead find the outcome that you were in pursuit of? And the pursuit of the outcome makes the problems just not relevant. That's the best definition I can give.
That's pretty good. And just on just to kind of gloss over what we were discussing, we were talking about how he's recently come into the world of comedy through mutual friends. We have a mutual friend who introduced us. Her name's Fern Orenstein. She is casting over at CBS, or she was the casting director, VP of casting at CBS for a long time. And then through that, he's met me, he's met Tiffany Haddish, he's met a bunch of other people, comedians and friends. And I was going to say that he was talking about the mindset that Tiffany has, where it's, if someone asks me to try something, I'm trying it. If somebody asks me to do something, I'm doing it.
And if it's in line with who you're trying to be, like right. I could ask Tiffany to because I've also seen people ask you to do crazy, she'd be like, why? But if Tiffany's in her head, I want to be an actor, and someone says, go star in this movie, her brain doesn't say, I've never done that before, I'm not going to do it. She's like, okay. And she is going to go do it. And it is a superpower that I admire, I want to embody, and I think everybody should have some of, not just in their work, but in life.
Yeah.
That woman is literally not afraid of being uncomfortable on her way to an aim. And most people, they fear uncomfort and thus don't make a change. Like, how many people I need to work out, but I don't want to wake up in the morning? Or human beings seek out comfort, but uber successful winners are willing to be uncomfortable. And it's a phenomenal thing to witness and watch. And most people don't, you and I have the ability. We know people, you included, who have had a level of success in a competitive, crazy world of entertainment where you see those people and you're like, that's the common thread, is that they're willing to do something other people wouldn't do. You, the comedy showcase, it's an incredibly uncomfortable thing to do. I've had many people who went through the comedy showcase and were successful, and they told me what a grind and beating it was, and how some of the feedback you got wasn't awesome and wasn't fun to get, but they were willing to expose themselves to it. Tiffany did it 7 times before she got through.
Yeah. No, I hear that, because I think I did it twice, maybe 3 auditions before they had said you can come and be a part of it.
But think of the regular world. What the regular world does, the rational world, you go do the comedy showcase, you audition or whatever, and they're like, no, JD, we're not going to take you. The fact that you went back is unusual.
Yeah.
For the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Tiffany went back 7 times. You went back 2 or 3. But most of the world does not do that. We apply for the job, we don't get the job, and we're like, all right, fine, we're not trying that again. But there's a thing that exists among uber successful people where it's I'm just not afraid to fail. And not only that, I accept that failure is a part of success. So when you didn't make it the first time, it's I'm going back. That's unusual. Most people on earth don't do that. I
agree. And especially in that particular scenario, or just in entertainment. I mean, I don't know if everybody, like you said, if you apply for a job and they say no, you're like, all right, other job. Yeah, no. Specifically acting or any form, not any form of entertainment, but a majority is, no, we are signing up for rejection. That's the job. The job is, am I willing to be rejected until I'm not? That's how I see it. I'm like, yeah, no, I want to do this because I really want to try this. I really want to be a part of this, and I'm comfortable with, oh, they said no. Or to me, I'd rather hear you say no, because we talked about that a little bit off camera or we were on camera, but we're off. But we talked about how you kind of get told no and for what reason. But I would say that I would rather hear the reason than, even if it's a bad one, compared to, oh, I'm not telling you anything. That's the world of being an actor. Submit your work. We take it. If we liked it, you'll hear back. If we didn't like it, yeah, hey man, good luck. Whatever you got going next week.
Yeah. But that's just that's such a weird mentality that explains your success. And I can see it. I can see the people who have it and the people who don't. Mm-hmm. And the people who don't end up like, and this is going to be a really horrible way to say this, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful or rude or anything, but they end up like kind of like toiling around the lower rung of the entertainment world and never to elevate.
Yeah, that's very real.
And I don't mean to make it sound like I'm shitting on those people, but like, you have to go be uncomfortable. And I hear people all the time, I'm just not comfortable making content on social media. Okay. One of my business mentors said something that like flipped my world. And it was in like 2016. So I'm like new as an entrepreneur. I had a therapy practice, but I was thinking about like therapy isn't fulfilling me anymore. I want to like reach other therapists with a really important message about solution-focused brief therapy, So I start a training organization, and I'm just as uncomfortable as anybody else. Like anytime you do something new, you're going to be uncomfortable. And I was talking to one of my business mentors about like social media and YouTube and the way the internet was taken off around that time. And he said, the biggest mistake that people make is they run their business in 2016 as if it's 2006. And I was like, ooh. So you gotta like do those things. And I see comics trying to pop in the world of comedy in 25 as if it's 2005. And you have to accept like, here's where we are now. And it means I need to do these things to like help it grow. And that's going to include doing things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. You mentioned a little earlier, you asked me the question of how many comics do you think go on stage to kill rather than go on stage to avoid bombing? And I told you that the amount of people who go on stage under the mindset of, oh, I'm going to kill is way less,
right,
compared to those who are like, I just want to make sure I don't bomb. And I hear you with that, because like if anything, you're feeding the beast of the limiting belief and how you see yourself or how you think others see yourself in that way, by not going up there and just doing the best work that you're capable of doing. Because at the end of the day, I always try to tell friends of mine or comics I know, like, if you know you're funny, that's all that matters. That's how I see it. I'm like, I know I'm funny. Even when I know the new stuff isn't working, I know exactly where to pivot to get us back on track. Because I'm like, all right, this ain't working. I thought it was good. Not even that I thought it was good. It's not done yet. Like the way you were just talking a second ago about Tony Rock working material out on a Tuesday night, which was more than likely Ruby Tuesdays if it was Laugh Factory, because I think you mentioned that. And
yeah, it was Laugh Factory.
Yeah, and then going to the Comedy Store on a Saturday
destroyed that room.
Yeah, and to destroy that room is, oh no, I'm doing the prep for the thing that I know I'm capable of. And, and unfortunately, if anything is sacrificed, it's the audience of the night on the practice night. Because I think it also is that, I think that's also sometimes a bad trait of us as comedians is, depending on the show, we'll treat the show certain ways. Mm-hmm. I try not to do it. I try, like, even if I'm like, all right, there's only 8 people in there, let me try to smash this for these 8 people who came here, because they'll remember it. But sometimes you'll get into not even necessarily a funk, but you'll perform in a room where it's like, all right, I don't really have to try to, like, that's a thought process. I don't have to try too hard on this show. I'm going to just do what works, get the laughs, and if I get them, great. If I don't, whatever. I'm not, I think that's how some people go through their own lives, where it's like, I don't have to try that hard at this because I could probably just skate through it and get
I think
a
that's true.
certain amount of results or something, and
that's
I'll be
true.
comfortable with that.
But one of the reasons I have that Tony Rock experience stands out to me so much is like, do you know thyself well enough to go up on stage and not be funny? And the goal that night wasn't to be funny. And I'm sure other people in the audience laughed, and he was Tony Rock. So whether you had a good night or not, you watched a megastar in the comedy world perform if you were in the audience. But he had the stones to like, tonight I'm working on my craft.
Right.
And the horrible thing about the comedy, not horrible, but the challenging thing about comedy is there's no other way to do it. Like there's no like fake stage. Like there's no practice stage.
Yeah, there's
like,
no faux stage prior to the stage. And once you get to a certain point, if I really want to run through some material, I'll go do an open mic just to hear the jokes out loud. But even then, it's like you're not performing in front of real people,
right?
Getting a real response. You're performing in like other comics who are more than likely just starting out. And if anything, they're looking at you if you're really good, like, whoa, he's a messiah.
Right. And I'm sure what he was noting on his phone was whether or not a joke hit or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he was. And he was probably punching up certain parts like, ooh, I like whatever. But he was perfect on it. Was a well-crafted performance by the time I saw him on Saturday night at the Comedy Store. And I just had a lot of respect for like, he could handle the risk of not being funny
right
on one night.
Yeah.
Because he understood the bigger thing that he's doing. And I think that's such a powerful thing, like, because the journey's not going to be easy. Now, again, we're using comedy as an example, but it could be sobriety. Like, can you handle the hard? Because what most people struggle with when they get sober is two things. Number one, your friend circle has to change. And number two, your experience mentally will change. So, for example, if I have a trauma background and I've been drinking for a long time, when I get sober, I've got to deal with the trauma. And then the other thing is, like, if you and me, like, we hang out every Friday going to happy hour and then I get sober, you either have to come with me on the sober journey or I can't hang out with you anymore.
Right.
So that's an uncomfortable experience. And like, are you prepared to lose on Saturday night to win at life? And Tony Rock was prepared to lose on Tuesday to win on Saturday. And most people just aren't willing to do that in their lives. And I think we should be. Yeah.
By the way, Tony, we were talking so highly of you before my footage got corrupted. So obviously,
which we're going to salvage.
No, in this day and age, I can't imagine I can't pull that stuff. But I was going to say, because I have other stuff to ask you, is like, you were talking about how you kind of were looking at therapy and like, oh, maybe what you were doing, you were getting a little tired of. So what is it that, I guess, sparked in your brain where you're like, I want to travel the world and start teaching people the way that I am seeing therapy, or the way I'm seeing, this practice through my eyes?
Because my goal was always to make a mental health journey accessible. That was always my goal. And every time I checked off the way I thought I was going to do that, it felt unsatisfying. So, like, for example, I'm going to get my degree, I'm going to get my license, and I'm going to get a job working at an agency, which, those you don't know, in a psychotherapy world, like, that's where you go. You work at, like, a mental health agency. And I went and got the job at the mental health agency. It felt unsatisfying. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go start my own therapy practice. And I put a lot of work and finally get my own office, and I, have my name on a building, and felt unsatisfying. And I was like, how do I expose more people to this? I'm going to write a book. And so every stage, it just felt like I thought this would be when I was like, I did it. And then it was like, I got another thing to do. And at some point I wrote a book and somebody sent me an email. This goes back to the Tiffany Haddish, like, don't view any barriers. Somebody sent me an email saying, we read this was my first book. It was in 2009. And they said, will you come to the UK and give a lecture? I was like, I don't have a passport. Never done the thing. You're asking me to keynote at a conference. I've never done that before. And I said, sure. Well, I'll go do that. And I went and got a passport. A few months later, I was in Bath, UK, and I did my very first keynote. And I remember getting off the stage, and this random person in the UK said, "You are a star." And I was like, huh? And then people started asking, "Will you come to Copenhagen, Denmark?" Sure. Will you come to Malmo, Sweden? Will you come to where'd I go? Bern, Switzerland. Like all these places I was going, like, and before I knew it, I was like, this is more in line because I'm going to expose more people. And I'll never forget the moment I felt like the most validated in my life. And at this point, I've been to 30, 35 countries talking about psychotherapy. And one of the places I went was South Africa. The first time I went to South Africa was 2014. As a black person, if you've never been to South Africa, go to South Africa. It is like, I kept looking down at my feet, and I would take pictures, and I was like, my feet are standing in Africa. Like it was a feeling I cannot describe to you. Like it was Africa. And I'm speaking at this country club in Johannesburg. And I'd gotten an email from the host of this event, a woman named Jackie, a very close friend of mine. And she said, there's a woman that can't afford to come. She can't pay the fee. She can get herself there, but she can't pay the fee. Do you mind if I let her in for free? So of course not. Of course not. No problem. So the day of the event comes, and I'm speaking, and we took a break, and Jackie brings this woman up to me. She said, "I just want to introduce you to the woman that I emailed you about." And I said, "Okay." And this amazing black woman, and black women, like, there's a strength in their eyes. And maybe if you're not black, you can't see it. Like, I don't know how to describe this, but there's like a historical strength. And this woman had that historical strength in her eyes, and she was crying. And she explained to me, I don't remember the country, but she's from like 2 countries north of South Africa. So like, I think just north of South Africa is Botswana, and maybe it's Zimbabwe north. I don't remember, but she took a bus through the African bush to get to Johannesburg, and it took 2 days. And each night of the 2-day journey, she would sleep in the bus in the jungle just to come hear me lecture. And I said, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "I needed to know what we look like on this stage. I've not seen that before." And then I start crying. And in that moment, I was like, this is what the journey is like. Like, because most people, if you look at mental health conferences, they're not people that look like us. They're not people like dress like us. And this woman needed to see that so badly. She was on a bus through like...
They made noise that time, at least. No, you're good. You're good.
She was on a bus traveling through like the African bush. And the African bush is not like the American bush. Like there's elephant. I mean, it's crazy. The entire country of Botswana is a game reserve. The entire country. And she had to travel through that on a bus. And I asked her, why? Like, to come see, why? And she said, I needed to see what we look like on that stage. And for me, that's what the whole journey has been about. Like, people don't know that mental health does matter to black people. Like, people don't know that because they've never seen us talk about it on this platform. But it does matter to us. I actually think that the mental health journey, or the mental health kind of barrier, is the last great barrier of the civil rights movement. And the reason why I think that, do you understand how like happy your life has to be in order to focus on your mental health?
Yeah.
Like we had to achieve a certain level of like baseline before we can even start talking about anxiety or depression. Because like, thinking as a clinician, if I could go back to the year 1820, how many slaves would you think I would diagnose with depression, PTSD? Like if I were a slave in 1820 and I turned to my buddy JD and I was like, "Hey man, I'm having nightmares." Nigga, me too. like we all in this.
Yeah.
We had to achieve a certain level Do you know how happy your life has to be? Because this is really what a mental health journey is. This is really what it is. A mental health kind of baseline is, I woke up today with the expectation of having a good day and didn't. Right? That's really what a mental health challenge is. Do you think slaves in 1820 woke up with the expectation of a good day? No. We had to earn the expectation of a good day.
Yeah.
Just to allow ourselves to have a conversation about mental health. And I think that we've earned the right to talk about mental health through the battle for equality and civil rights and all those things. So now we have to complete that and be like, you know what? We've got to talk about mental health because we weren't able to for so long because we were all experiencing trauma. We were all experiencing PTSD. I visited a place which is the saddest place I've ever been in my life. I visited a place called Glendora, Mississippi.
I've heard of it.
Does that town mean anything to you? Those of you that Glendora, Mississippi did not ring a bell, Glendora, Mississippi is the location where Emmett Till was lynched. And me and a white colleague of mine went to Glendora, Mississippi. We went all across the American South because we wanted to interview people and we wanted to make content about the civil rights movement from a mental health perspective. And we end up in Glendora, Mississippi. It is the saddest place I've ever been in my life because it is like a city. I mean, it's very rural, so I use the word city liberally, but it's like a geographical location that is dealing with like regional PTSD because some kid in the year 1953, I think, whistled and they took him,
quote unquote.
Well, the reports are that he whistled, but but took him out of their community and killed him. And the dad, I mean, I could almost cry thinking about this. He was staying with a family member. And Emmett Till, according to reports and people who were there, said he did whistle at this pretty white woman at a store in Money, Mississippi, which is about a 30-minute drive from Glendora. He was staying with his uncle and cousins. And he was safe for like 2 or 3 days after this. Someone had to help them find Emmett Till, them being the lynchers, find him. When they found him, he was at the home with his uncle and his cousins. And the white mob knocked on a door and gave that dad the hardest choice ever. Said, give us the boy. And he said, no. Give us the boy or we're killing all of you. He had to give up his nephew in order to save everyone else. So now me and my friend, we're there. I believe it was 2021 that we did this. And you can feel the racism in this town and the impact of this PTSD. Now, Morgan Freeman went to Glendora, Mississippi, and he put like historical markers. Like this is where the home was that the two brothers who killed him lived. This is where the such and such. Those historical markers are riddled with bullet holes. White people today drive to that area and shoot those historical markers. Emmett Till was beaten and savagely tortured. And then he was tied to an industrial fan and thrown off a bridge. And he was pulled out of the water at this landing spot. And the marker at that landing spot had been shot with so many bullets that they had to replace the marker at that spot with a bulletproof sign. So imagine living in a town where 80 years ago, 70 years ago, a young boy was taken out and murdered in such a grotesque way. But 70 years later, the great-grandchildren of people did that are shooting up the signs to remind you of the white. And if I went to any of them and I was like, do you have depression? Do you have anxiety? Do you have PTSD? The answer is systemically yes. we've earned the right to wake up and expect a good day and be able to address it if we have a pattern of not having the good day materialize. And for that reason, I really think that the mental health like mountain is the final mountain of the civil rights movement, because we have finally earned the right to expect a good day. Yeah. And I think that it is ours to claim. So they need to see conversations like this with two black men talking about their mental health journeys, their experience with parents that had mental health issues that made our lives more complicated than they otherwise needed to be. And they need to see psychotherapists that wear, G-Shock watches or that listen to Jay-Z or, whatever it might be. Because I think we have to complete the circle. And I do think the journey for civil rights includes mental health, because we come from a lot of trauma, a tremendous amount of trauma that couldn't be addressed by the people who were experiencing it, because they were all experiencing it at the same time. And they didn't know they experienced it because they all had it. Like there's no way I could turn to my slave counterpart and be like, hey man, you all right today? No, I'm not all right. And you ain't either. And they ain't either. But now we can, and consequently we should. So we need to engage in counseling. We need to engage in counseling in the cultural significant way that we can, with people who represent, honor, and are a part of our community. Like you don't have to go to Beverly Hills and see a counselor. You can see your counselor in your community who looks like you and talks like you, because that's the final mountain of the civil rights journey. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's you hitting the nail on the head. This is so sad, but not sad. More just it's just real and it's honest and it's very much what needs to be done. And hopefully more people will do it, because even the people who are going out of their way to riddle these landmarks with bullets based off of multi-generational racism, I don't know, but it's taught. Babies aren't racist. You got to teach them racism. That's just. But what you're genuinely saying is very real and very traumatic, and even the people who had to come up in it, there was no idea of having a conversation about it, because it's we're living it. I'm in it right now. What do you and even being cognizant of that is a whole. But and imagine, what would you think? What would you think if you lived in Glendora, Mississippi, and you exercise, you run, and you run around the neighborhood and there's bullet holes in markers that are honoring Emmett Till. You don't feel safe in your own community. And what would happen, we met the mayor. So the Emmett Till story, y'all can watch movies about it. You can read books, but we went there. We went to the physical location. The mayor of Glendora, Mississippi, is the son of the man they accused of telling where Emmett Till was. He's the current mayor, or at least was the current mayor in 2021 of Glendora, Mississippi. And talking to my buddy and I, he was terrified. He was like, y'all recording this? And we were like, yes, we're recording it. What are you going to do with the recording? Because he still lives in fear of what the white community will do to him. And that's crazy. That was 7. I'm not saying it's crazy. He shouldn't. I'm just saying it's crazy that fear still exists in that community. He is still this is not a safe community, as evidenced by the bullet holes all over the place, because 70 or 80 years ago, somebody came in this community, plucked a black boy out of it, and went unpunished. They were found not guilty. They did interviews and admitted that they did it post, because of double jeopardy, you can't prosecute these people. The woman, Carolyn, whatever, I don't even want to say her name just because, fuck her. But she was on the porch the night that they gave that dad the hardest choice anybody could give a dad. She was on the porch. They reported hearing a female voice pointing out who the kid was. She lived in peace until her death a couple years ago in Mississippi. She was never prosecuted, held accountable, nothing. So if you lived in Glendora, Mississippi, and I say to you, hey man, you're really smart and talented, you should go to college. No, because when you stand out over here, bad things happen to you. That's the mentality there. They thought me and Adam were crazy. My buddy Adam is white. they thought we were crazy. We had educations. I'm a black guy hanging out with this white dude. He's a white dude hanging out with a black guy. We looked completely nuts to them.
Yeah.
They were like, what is going on?
Which is crazy because that's 2021. But even then, they're just like, why are y'all friends?
Yeah.
Why are y'all friends in front of us?
In Glendora, Mississippi.
Yeah.
They were like, what's happening here? Because you can't find the landing where Emmett Till was pulled out of the water. It's hard to find. So we had to ask people. And they would look in the car like, what's going on in there?
Yeah.
It was me, my white friend, and his wife. She was sitting in the back seat. I was driving. My white buddy's in the passenger seat, and his wife in the back. And that looked crazy to them.
Yeah.
Because the experience in their particular area. And the craziest place, the store. This is crazy. The store where Emmett Till, again, according to witness reports, he did whistle at this woman. The store, which is irrelevant, by the way. Mm-hmm. He was 12 or whatever age he was.
Getting murdered for whistling is insane.
The store where that happened still exists. It is like Earth is reclaiming it. Like there's trees growing through it, bushes in it and around it, but like no one has like bought it to demolish it or it's like it's this like shrine of hate. Mm-hmm. And in front of this shrine, there's a marker, like this is the store where this thing happened. And we were standing. I had to pull over and park and like walk over, and I just needed to like touch this building. But I was like, Adam, I feel like, and these white people driving by in pickup trucks, they would slow down to look at us, and I was like, I feel like they're gonna just swerve off the road and like take us out. Like it was this crazy experience. But that was 2021, like that was not 1954. That was not the year after it happened. That was like decades after it happened. And we're still dealing with this. And I say all of this to say mental health is just not some buzzword that I'm using 'cause I'm a psychotherapist. I genuinely believe it's the last chapter of the civil rights journey. Mm-hmm. And as black people, in order to honor Medgar Evers, in order to honor Malcolm X, in order to honor Martin Luther King Jr. and everyone that has gone through this struggle to get us to where we are, we need to talk about mental health because they couldn't. They were not afforded the right or ability to do so.
Yeah, I agree. Ugh, this sucks. Sorry. No, I'm not trying to be negative. No, more than like, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. And I do think that to come full circle, like, I don't think, people talk about like, what is the word? We'll never, like the phrase, we'll never be free until like we free ourselves or something like that. But that is a part of like our freedom to have that knowledge and knowing what we are capable of accomplishing and having the history within our roots so we understand all of the things that our ancestors went through and how we could rise above it and be better for it and have a better understanding of like, all right, why are we feeling this way? How do we cope with this? How do we process this? How do we move forward? And there's not enough of that obviously going around or being taught. And there's not enough people who I think, that you get to see like someone as yourself on stages advocating for it on a regular basis. That's absolutely true. Okay. So you're traveling, you're going on the road with your friend and you're learning all about these places like where Emmett Till was unfortunately lynched. And you were mentioning, because we talked about this off camera, we're not used to seeing someone who, one, I would say is black. I don't really know a lot of popular black therapists at all, if I'm thinking about it. I feel like I've seen some, but not many.
There are a few. I don't think there's many of us, but there are a few.
Yeah. And you're coming through with your own way of teaching, your own way of understanding, maybe your own way of just going about it in the industry. And I know that we talked about this in passing the other day when we were hanging out. How is the therapy world reacting to you, even just being in what I guess would be their community, their business? You obviously have been in it all on your own and doing it well for years, but now you're going out there and teaching it to the masses, and the masses are actually responding to it in a positive light.
Right.
And are you getting, feedback positively from your colleagues? Are you getting, negative feedback? Are you getting like, this is too different? Because we talked about a little bit earlier how bringing in just any type of new change makes the old guard get all,
yes.
yeah. And it's the same as we spoke about how, the new age of online entertainers, online comedians, online funny people, like the social media, internet funny people, I'm gonna call them. But
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm not giving you a bad name, but I'm calling you what you are. That's all.
It makes me laugh. Internet funny people. But you're stepping into, or you're not even stepping in. You're in the world, but now you're taking your stance and your messages globally, and obviously in most scenarios with most industries, that can always rub, I would personally say, insecure people the wrong way. Yes.
But yeah, so how is it going now that you're...
I would say you identified it properly. The masses are responding very well. Like, people like my content and people consume my content. People sign up for my content, which I'm deeply appreciative of. I think when the people who benefit from a status quo, when the status quo is threatened, they attack the perceived threat, and I upset the status quo. And I think about it. I think about it in many respects, but they just didn't expect it to look like me. They did not expect it to be dressed like me. And they did not expect it to have the attitude that I have. And not that I have an attitude, but I come from a very particular background proudly. Like, I'm a black man of the hip hop culture, and I'm going to be that in every space that I walk into. And for sure, the status quo or the powers that be that were used to being at the top of the field in which I entered into, the solution-focused brief therapy field to be specifically, were very, very insecure and behaved in very poor, racist, bigoted ways. And what they weren't used to was for someone to push back.
Right.
And I'm just not like, we're gonna do this. Like, if you want to play that game, we can play that game.
Yeah, and you're a young man from Chicago, and grew up in Boston, and you've got, I mean, I don't know why the phrase roundabout way came out in my head, but then again, I was like, wait, isn't that like negative? Like, I was like, that's not, no, but you're you from where you come from, and now you're going and teaching your style of therapy that obviously has been around, but you're doing it your way to the masses, and people are looking at you as other. Like, well, one, what makes you, it's like we had discussed earlier, what makes you think you can do this?
Right.
You maybe not even that. You can't do this. You shouldn't do this. Why are you doing this? Stop doing it.
All that.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
And no, like, I'm gonna keep doing it.
F that noise. Yeah.
I have every right to do it. And they would criticize me for things that they weren't criticizing others about. And some of the criticism was stupid. Like, I remember one day my good buddy Adam, who's in the same industry as I am and is white, we were going to the fitness center at a hotel. Adam and I are very close to this day, and we've always been close. And he has been an ally the whole journey. I feel like I need to say that, because while the industry was really horrible, that was my guy and is my guy. And we were in some hotel at some event, and we're going to the fitness center. So, like, we're both wearing like hoodies, athletic shorts, and Adam was remarked as, you look like you're comfortable, and I was remarked, you look like a thug. And I was like, we're just wearing athletic clothes. Like, we're literally doing nothing different. The only thing that is different is his clothes are covering a white body, and my clothes are covering a black body.
You still wearing that black skin. Still wearing that, unfortunately.
And they are very used to, and I don't believe I was the first black man to be targeted in such a way. But I don't think they were used to a black man with power. And the internet gives you power. If you know how to utilize the internet and build a following equates to power. If you have 10 million followers and insert comedy club reaches out to you and says, will you come perform here? You get to ask for more money because you have a massive following, right? That's if a network reaches out to you, we want to do a TV show and you have 10 million followers, you get to ask for more money because power comes from having audience. And they were not used to a black man with an audience. And they definitely weren't used to a black man who was willing to use his power to push back against their stupidity. And there were people, I mean, I would say their names, but you guys wouldn't know them, but there were specific people. And I was like, you really want to do this? Like, you really want to do this? If you really want to play, we can play, but it won't end well for you because I know how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the more frustrating part of hearing you talk about that is instead of seeing me as a threat, why not embrace me and learn from what I've developed and then we can build together? That's what you would like to obviously see in most avenues in life, but
well, especially in psychotherapy. I mean, I think one of the things,
especially in therapy,
I think one of the things I'm most ashamed of, and I really am using the word ashamed. I've been black my whole life, and I have experienced racism at almost every turn and encounter with the white culture and white community. Growing up in Boston, my mom, being an amazing woman, she wanted her 3 kids to get a good environment. So we moved to a suburb of Boston called Franklin, Massachusetts. And there's a college in Franklin called Dean College. My mother moved me and my 2 brothers into like off-campus student housing for this college that we did not go to. But because it was off-campus student housing, it had to be available to everybody. And that's where I lived. So I'm living in like this poor area of this affluent suburb because my mother wanted my brothers and I to get a good education. Like, so I've encountered racism at every turn in which I could encounter it. I'm so embarrassed, and this is such a stupid thing to say, but when I got my master's degree and my license, this was in 2008, there was a conference, and I went to the conference, and I did a workshop at this conference. And at this conference were the people that I had studied in graduate school, and I did not anticipate experiencing racism because in my mind, we have everything in common. We have the same kind of degrees. We have the same kind of licensure with the same kind of desire to do the same kind of work with the same kind of clients. We're a family. Like, I did not see it coming. But by 2010, there were so many obvious signs that at first I was confused. I would say to some people I trusted, like, did you see that? And all of them were white. And by the way, like, imagine going into a conference and I'm the only black person at the conference, literally one. And something would happen and I'd be like, y'all see that? Like, and they'd be like, yeah, we saw that. And after a while, I was like, I have every right to contribute to the field. And in fact, I felt like I had a responsibility because if I didn't do it, there was no black voice to do it. And then you guys get to pretend like black people. They actually write in textbooks. This will probably shock people who don't know this. They write in textbooks that black people don't want to talk about mental health.
I believe that.
When you go study mental health in graduate school, they write that in textbooks. And then Charlemagne the God creates an organization called the Mental Wealth Alliance. And every year he hosts an event about mental health, and 3,000 to 5,000 black people show up to talk about mental health. And like the reason why they write in textbooks black people don't care about mental health is because white people wrote the book and they didn't ask us. Here's what they did. So insert white psychotherapist in insert affluent area, set up their therapy practice. And most black people don't come and see them because they look judgmental. They look like the perpetrators of racism. They look like bigotry. Whether they are or not is not the point. That's how you look. And we are tired of explaining what the black experience is like to people not of our culture, so people don't go to them. And the few black people that do go to them, they have a hard time connecting with. So they don't accept their cultural responsibility in that lack of connection. They blame us. So they say black people don't want to talk about mental health because we didn't want to talk about mental health to you.
Yeah.
But when Charlemagne the God, a black man of the hip hop culture, creates an environment and an organization, and he like makes that available to people to come to, 5,000 black people come, and they bring their children, and they bring their partners, and the room, the venue that I've spoken at this event for the last 2 years. The venue that it's been done at is at Times Square, New York City. It's one of the big major hotels at Times Square, New York City. And it's packed with black people only wanting to talk about their mental health. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, that's an incongruence, because they didn't ask us, but then they blame us for our inability to go talk to insert the non-culturally sensitive white person. It's like, oh, y'all don't want to talk to us, so thus you don't want to talk about mental health. No, we just don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because it's exhausting, actually.
It's a job within a job, because me and both my wife, I think the moment we were like, yeah, we're going to do therapy, it was like, well, I don't feel like going through the hurdle of explaining my experience to a white therapist.
It's too much.
Yeah. And also it's just one of those things where it's like, you can't say we don't want something, write us out of something, and then when we go do it, you're mad we went and did it without you, because that's how it usually goes.
That's right.
How dare they have an only black therapy thing? No, y'all want to come be a part of it. But we tried to do the group job. We tried to do the group project, and y'all were against it. So
and they diagnose like black women are historically more at risk in the medical field and also in the psychotherapy field, because they misdiagnose.
Yep.
So like if I come to therapy and I'm like, I'm afraid when I leave my job to drive home at night about an encounter with the police because I just saw George Floyd get murdered. I just saw Ahmaud Arbery get murdered. I'm afraid. They hear that as like, oh, I'm going to diagnose you with like paranoia. Because what does the murder in all the way in Georgia have to do with you here in California? What does the murder in Minneapolis have to do with you in Texas? And the answer is everything.
Yeah.
Like I tried everything I could to avoid watching Ahmaud Arbery's murder. I purposely, they would talk about it, I'd change the channel. Like, we're going to show the footage. I'm down. I avoided all the stuff on social media. And then when the trial came, I was really interested in the trial. Like, I wanted to make sure these three men were held accountable for their behavior and conduct and the way they took that young man's life. So I'm watching the trial on YouTube, and I saw the murder.
Yeah.
Kind of by accident. And my immediate response was, that man's guilty of the same crime I commit every second of every day, which was being black. And my buddy Adam, who I've continuously talked about, he lives in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is a few hours away from Scintilla Shores, or whatever that area is called. But it is a suburb of Atlanta. I've gone jogging in his neighborhood. And I just thought to myself, like, if you got murdered robbing a bank, it's like, great. Don't rob a bank. You don't get shot. Okay, got it. But I've done the exact thing that Ahmaud Arbery did lots of times.
Yeah.
Which is just jogging in a white neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done that lots of times. And specifically, growing up in Massachusetts, he jogged in a white neighborhood and was curious about a construction home. Me and my buddies have done that. We have literally jogged through neighborhoods, seen a house under construction, went and looked at it. We didn't take any tools out of we didn't do nothing. We just, we come from the poor side of town. So we're running through this area. You see a house under construction. We've gone and just been like, oh, this is going to be a finished house in a few months, and just kind of looked around and continue our jog. That is literally all that brother did. That's it.
Yeah.
And they took his life. So I can explain that to you, and I can explain to you, I'm now nervous to go jogging around the neighborhood, and that will make sense to you. If I explain that to a psychotherapist who is not of our culture, who does not understand that, they will diagnose you with paranoia.
Yeah.
And they will say stupid stuff to you like, well, just don't do it then. It's like, hello?
They also, I would assume, would say to themselves in that moment, well, I wouldn't do that, so why would you?
Correct.
Yeah. And like, or I don't think that way about this scenario. I don't think people get murdered for stuff like that. And it's like, no. People who look like us get murdered for that stuff like that all the time.
All the time.
Like, I consider that when I would run through my neighborhood, I would go for a run and I would be like, you need to be the most likable looking black man. Like you need to look like you're running. It shouldn't
Correct.
be that you're running around for no reason. And if anything, make this a habit so they're like, oh, you must live around,
Yeah.
Or just like I consider that in the sense of just jogging around and whatnot, being friendly, or just looking friendly. It's the fact that we even have these micro thoughts of, oh, wear your hat forward.
Correct.
Don't wear it backward. Put your shades on around here, not there. Make sure maybe take the hoodie off when you get out the car.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And there have been 2 videos. I'm gonna go to hell for what I'm about to say.
Nah,
JP.
hopefully not.
I'm gonna burn up right now. There are 2 videos that were made that involved kind of racist incidents that I was so happy to see. The first one was the Central Park birdwatcher video.
Oh no, you're not going to hell, man. We talking about she deserved everything she got.
But the reason I loved it was there was a part of that video where that woman, she's on the phone with 911, doesn't realize that she's being recorded. And she's like, he's assaulting me. He's hit. And she's like 20 feet away from dude. And he
Started screaming.
Right. And he's like, I ain't touching this woman. But he's recording it. And I was like, this is what we live with.
Yeah.
Because when you think about that, I actually think the greatest tool in the civil rights, in the pursuit of equality, is the cell phone.
Yeah.
Because how many black men have died over a white woman's accusation where there wasn't footage to not support what she was saying? So this woman is on the phone with 911. He is assaulting me. He is physically assaulting me. And he was like, I'm all the way over here. Like, ain't nothing happening. And he's recording it. And I was like, this is exactly what we deal with all the time. And I was so pleased to see that video because I was like, y'all now see what we've been saying. The other video, and this is the one I think I'm going to be in trouble for saying, but the other video I was happy to see. I don't remember where this happened, but so many white people said, like the response to black people being murdered by police in particular was, if you just comply, then you won't get shot. Like that was,
You might get your ass beat for complying.
right. I heard that and read that on social media from so many people. Like, if you just do what the officer says, so there's a video of this guy, this black man. He was at work and he worked with mentally disabled people. And he was like the carer. And he was out in the community with this woman that he was the carer of. The police thought he had like kidnapped her or whatever. So they pull up, draw their guns, put your hands up. My man went like this. Said, lay down on the ground. My man, lay down on the ground. Then they said, put your hands back up. He was sitting on the ground with his hands up. Pop, pop, pop. They shot him.
Yeah.
And I was so happy to see that video. I was like, that dude did everything those officers said to do, even though he was not in the wrong. He didn't do nothing wrong. Those officers said, hands up, hands up. Lay down on the ground, lay down on the ground. They told him to sit up. He sat up, put your hands back up. His hands were in the air, and he got shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's
That
nothing
is complying. That's us complying and
Right.
still getting murdered.
He did not die, I don't think, but
Oh yeah, I think he sued. I remember that. I remember seeing. Yeah.
and it's like there's nothing I can do to escape my blackness. And in the field of psychotherapy, I just scared the shit out of them. Like they didn't know what to do.
Well, us existing can be of act of villainy. Like the fact that person was called while they were helping a caretaker is someone not minding their business, looking out the window like, uh-oh,
Right.
officer, I've never seen a black in my neighborhood. You've gotta come look at this like that.
Like
No.
and all black people. So one of my first jobs in this industry, in the helping professions, I was working at this agency, and every Christmas we would do like a toy drive, and they would have like this massive room in the office, and people donated. I mean, I'm talking thousands of toys, teddy bears, video games, bicycles, all the stuff. And our jobs, we were doing home visits at the time, and our jobs was to like take the toys to the homes and disperse them. And me and my best friend, guy named Matthew, we would go and deliver the toys to the families on our caseload per our home visits. And we went to we had boxes and boxes, and we were going to do this together. We're going to drive to your family's homes, then my family's home, and we were taking his car. So we go to his car and we're putting just loads of toys in his car. Now there's the office is in this big old building, and people could see us doing this through the window. So we're just putting toys in the car. And as we're doing this, eventually police pull up. What are you guys doing?
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Of course.
What are you guys doing? And we're like, we're putting toys in the car. You're sure you're not stealing them? Positive, actually. Why do you ask that? Because some woman was watching us from the building and said 2 black men are stealing toys out of a car. It's like, no, we're not. And we had to justify our educated, degreed vocation that we were doing in that moment. We had to justify it to the police. We had to tell them, no, we're actually counselors. We're actually mental health professionals. We're taking these toys to people's homes. We're not taking the toys out of the car. And we had to go get our white boss, to verify what we were saying. And when the white boss told them, they were like, okay, you guys have a nice day. And we were like, no, you owe us an apology?
Yeah.
Like, we did nothing wrong. We were putting toys in a car, and somebody in the building sees this. It looks to them like, 2 niggas taking stuff out of a car. Like, we're not taking anything. We're putting stuff in.
Y'all were existing and stealing from Santa's bag. God damn it. So much so that now listen, even considering all the things you're talking about right now, as we sit in my office, if someone were to walk out from the outside and see the lights on in my office and say, I hear some people in there, they could do that to us in this moment.
That's true.
Because I've seen that video of I think it was a police officer who was harassing this black businessman at his business at like 1 a.m. And he was like, you're in here past midnight. It's like, I own the building.
I had that happen in my house.
can do what I want to do in here as long 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Well, let me verify it's yours. How am I in here?
Bro,
that's
my office for a decade was in a place called Keller, Texas, which is in a suburb that sits between Dallas and Fort Worth, just to give you guys some context. And I parked my car in the same spot every day. And therapy is a job that typically you work till about 10 o'clock because people want to come after work, right? So you got to work some late hours. I was there for a decade. And every now and then some police officer would come. Like, I'd be walking out of my office, get into my car, and I would be stopped pulling out of the parking lot. And every single time, what are you doing in this area? I'm working. And I used to have to say, if I show you my driver's license and business card, so you see that the names match, will you then believe me? Like, the name on the building, the name on the driver's license, and the name on the business card will all match. And I used to have to do that. And it destroys your dignity, but at least I don't go home shot. So I was like, I don't want to say nothing to keep this dude in my life any longer than I had to. So that was my response. What are you doing over here? I work over here. Can you prove that? How do you prove that? That's my name on the building. Can you prove that that's your name? Well, here's what I can give you. You see my name on the building. Here's my driver's license. Here's my business card. If all 3 match, can I go? They'd be like, yes, sir. And I would show them all 3 that match. Did I ever get an apology? Nope.
I'm surprised they said yes, sir. I thought they'd be like, this is some Photoshop shit. McLovin looking ass boy. Because at a certain point, they need to justify why they are doing this to you.
Right.
And to the point of, I'm going to drag you into this car, take you to the precinct, and then someone's going to tell me I'm wrong, and I'll finally be like, oh, I guess I was wrong.
But they won't even say that. They'll be like, they won't say I was wrong. They'll say, well, all of the, like, here are the justifiable things that justified why I did what I did. They wouldn't say I was wrong. They'd be like, well, clearly this was a mistake, but I wasn't wrong because I was following the clues. And the clues were your niggerdom. Like, you know what I mean?
The clues to investigation that didn't exist.
Right. And I shared an office, like, not an office, like I shared like a suite. She had her own office, I had mine, but we shared like the space with a white woman named Gina. And this happened to me in 10 years, I would say, let's say 6 times a year. And one day I said, Gina, does this ever happen to you? Because she's a counselor too. She worked late.
Right.
They could stop her just as much as me. When she walks out of the office, she's carrying a bag. She's got a suit, she's got her stuff. Often she had a suitcase because she did play therapy, so she's got all these toys she's got to keep in it. She's like, nope, never. Like, not even once. Not even once. Every other month it happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
About her, not even once. And I at the time I drove a nice car. I drove a 6 Series BMW. I would get pulled over just for having a nice car. And every time I got pulled over, they'd say, "What are you doing over here?" "I'm working. And by the way, I can drive anywhere I want to drive." Like, but that was not a thing. And I asked my white friends, "Y'all ever get asked that question?" No. Like, if I'm speeding, they'll just be like, "You know how fast you're going? Da-da, here's your ticket," or not, whatever. But every time I got pulled over, every time I was asked, "Why are you in this area?"
Yeah.
And it's, I don't do a whole lot when I'm in Texas. I'm either home or at work. So the answer was usually because I work over there or I live over here. Like, but I get pulled over well, I don't have that car anymore, but I have a different nice car. But that 6 Series BMW was the first kind of like flashy car. And I would get pulled over constantly in that thing. I was like,
yeah.
what is wrong with y'all?
You got, what is the person who watches my content says that we don't have the complexion for the protection. That's what it is.
That's true.
But also, you talking about the car reminds me of the first time I ever got racially profiled while driving. I was me and my friend, we were in Hollywood, near kind of like all the comedy clubs and all that stuff, and we were coming from a comedy show. Actually, this is like years before I ever did stand up, and it was at some real small spot off of like what I think was Highland or La Brea, and we got pulled over. They flashed us into this parking lot of like a liquor store, and then they started lighting the car, and they came up to the window and they said, "Hey, you guys bang?" And I was like, "Sir, me?" Me and my boy Henry, we were tripping because we both like, yeah, we're black, but it's like, bro, I'm into like, I want to play video games and go skateboarding. That's what we like. We were both in college at the time, and I was driving my mom's Jaguar, and they like basically their reasoning after they did their checks and all that was, basically they said something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, you were just we saw you guys driving a dirty Jag," because the car wasn't washed all the way or something, and I'm like, huh? And then they were like, and I think we didn't press it any farther. It's funny, when they asked us, do we gangbang or bang, whatever it was, we burst out laughing. It was awkward because I was like, oh, bro, if you only knew us. and listen, I will say if I was a racist, maybe I'd pull myself over, I guess, because I used to have cornrows and I was wearing
but that don't matter.
No, that doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, they're racist. I'm black. I'm not. I see why it happened. I don't agree with it, but it's basic. But yeah, 2 black dudes in a car you think they don't own. That was the gist of it. And then they gave us like a bum light ticket or something, and I was like, okay, guys, bye. But no, that should never have happened to begin with.
But those are the experiences that like we get tired of explaining to white people because they will say, well, you shouldn't wear cornrows. And my response is, okay, fine. Cornrows look like gangbangers. Okay. If I accept that as reality, then you need to tell me what's the white haircut that they get scared of. Like, tell me the haircut that white people have.
That's a great response.
Like, oh, when I see a bunch of white people with that haircut, I know they up to no good. Because
great response.
There's a lot of haircuts that we have. There's a lot of tattoos that we have. And it's like, oh, you look like you fit into this particular genre. I just want to know what's the white equivalent of that.
There's nothing. Cops were made to catch black people. That was their job. Their job was made to catch black people, and they still doing it to this day. And I'm not saying that obviously every race is not open. Like, you know,
I'm not saying every cop is horrible. There's some wonderful cops doing their job, but
some.
There's a song, KRS-One. Do you remember KRS-One?
Yeah, I know KRS-One.
He had a song where he was saying like officer, overseer, officer, overseer, officer, overseer. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. That's just what it is. That's just that's the black experience. And like, it's not even a thing where we have to explain to white people. There's people who aren't white who who go out of their way, who are from other backgrounds in this day and age, especially in this Trump world. They're like, it's not happening. Y'all are tripping. And then next thing you know, Trump turns their back on them. Who knows? That's just the life we live now.
But all of that was the reason racism the attempted like coup of racism on me and my field didn't work because I knew I can't stop.
Right.
Number one, too many people had sacrificed too much, both historically and also personally to me. Too many people have sacrificed too much to get me to here. And secondly, if I stop, then we have no black representation in this particular field. So like, I can't stop. Like, you guys are gonna have to kill me, like figuratively and literally, to get me to stop. I'm not gonna stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they understood, like, you're not just fighting Elliott, you're fighting the people that propped Elliott up, again, both historically and literally in my personal journey. So you can have all the meetings that you want. Like, I think I said this to you off camera, but these organizations got together and had a meeting, a secret meeting in Malmo, Sweden, that I found out about, that was literally like, how do we make sure Elliott is not a loud voice in this field? And they came up with this like strategy to like prop up these other people. And when it got back to me, I was like, y'all don't even understand. You can prop up whoever, you can do whatever you need to do. It's just not going to work. And what am I ever, like, it never works. Like, it just never works. We have a history in this country of being oppressed, but we also have a history of overshadowing and overpowering that oppression.
Right.
It just never works. Hate, as hokey as this sounds, hate is actually not a strong enough force to fight against the pursuit of freedom and justice. So there's a very consistent story of people overcoming the people who try to oppress them. So you can try to oppress me all you want. It's just not going to work. And I know that because I study the way people overcome things. So like, you can set up all the apartheids you want, but a Mandela is going to arise. That's just how this works. Like, like I was speaking of Trump, when Trump was running the first time and he's like, build that wall, I was like, you guys understand, whatever wall he's going to put up, someone's going to tear down at some point.
Right.
Because that's what this is. The Berlin Wall is like this sign of freedom. Whenever you build something with the purpose of limiting people based upon things like nationality, ethnicity, we fight against it. And eventually those things are torn down. So you can put up all of the walls you want. You can put up all the barriers and remove all the access. And the person you are oppressing, the people you are oppressing, will find a way, because human beings need freedom. It is in our DNA.
Yeah.
We don't like having it removed, to the point where the removal of freedom is an actual use of punishment and torture.
And then it becomes empowerment, because you saying that right now is actually interesting, because we're a week and a half away from them trying to ban TikTok?
Yes.
Which is fascinating.
Yes.
Which is you banning freedom of speech in our country, America, because you want to put it under the racist guise of China's coming for your data, which it's like, but y'all been had our data. So what?
And didn't do great things with
and
it.
aren't doing, and also it's taking market share away from apps that were once king, like anything that Zuckerberg owns or YouTube or anything else. And you trying to strip this away, especially from this younger generation, they're going to fight tooth and nail, not just to keep it, but if not that, to then advocate for something that's going to be worse to you, to what you. So you think this is a problem. They're going to make it 10 times worse for you if they start pushing something different, which they recently have. They started pushing like a fully Chinese app recently called Red Note, which is just so funny because it's like, y'all so worried about the Chinese government having our data, we gonna give it away now. Like, but especially, but you know, and even more interesting in this day and age that you would ban an app that is just people who are making a living and speaking their mind, but then you would, you know, keep something like OnlyFans around, which I'm for sex workers, do your thing, but it's like, what do y'all really care about? Do y'all want to, if you really wanted to save the youth, you would get rid of porn and get rid of guns, but y'all are like, that's
man.
But we run on. That's what we run on in America.
That's
guns, porn, and gasoline, baby. That's the American way. And football.
Man,
those are our four cornerstones.
Don't get me started on guns. The fact that we are banning TikTok before we're banning automatic assault weapons, is shocking to me.
Fascinating,
and speaks to what we value. And And I always think about, man, like after 9/11, some crazy person tried to, and 9/11 happened in 2001. That's 24 years ago. And some crazy person tried to smuggle a bomb onto a plane in their shoes. That person was caught. To this very day, you got to take your shoes off and put them through the scanner at the airport. 24 years later. I could walk into a school tomorrow with an automatic assault weapon and shoot however many kids are in the cafeteria, and they will not ban the weapon that I used. Yeah. And then people say guns don't kill people. It wasn't the gun that did it. And it's just like, look, man, like, do you want to know, people want to know how we drastically as a society drastically dropped incidents of suicide in our society? You guys want to know a funny story how we did it? Around the 1970s, I wish I remembered the year, but there was a specific year where suicides dropped tremendously. And what we did as a culture to do that, now you would think like suicides dropped, counseling must have gotten better, more counselors, more people got therapy, whatever. Nope, that's not how we did it. The auto industry cleaned up their the exhaust that comes out of cars. Because at that time, the number one way that you would commit suicide is you would go into your garage, close the door, start the car.
Yeah, asphyxiate yourself.
And then the emissions from the car, you would basically suffocate from carbon monoxide. So the auto industry changed what was coming out of the car, right? So what did we do? We limited access to the number one way that people were ending their lives. That's how we did it. So we know access is actually the key. And all over the world, they've done this. There was a mass shooting in Ireland in like 1983. They banned assault weapons. There has never been a mass shooting in Ireland again since. Like all over the world, they know the answer to this puzzle. And America will not do it. And we have a mass shooting more than weekly on average in the country.
Listen, how many days are we into this? We're I think 14 or 15 days into this year, and usually we have about 6.
We probably already have, and we've been so numb to it. It don't even make the news.
No,
it's just like, oh, another crazy person walked into a church, school, movie theater, whatever. It's crazy. Even
banning the weapons at this, like the way that you said you could go into the school is one thing. We don't even have this thing set in place. We don't have the limitation set in place just so you can't get one without a license in certain areas. Sure. That's the crazy part. The craziest part would be, hey, can I at least go into the store and be told no? Nah. Come on into Walmart, baby. Like
you could have a documented history of significant mental health issues, and we have no way of stopping you. And look, guns, fine, protect gun rights, have guns everywhere, all that, do all that. But can we just use common sense as we do that? And I think in our society, there's too much hate present to have this much access to mass weaponry. And we need to like honor, like there's hate here. Like there's deep-seated hate.
Well, the people who hate the most will never admit
it. but they still do it. Like Dylan Roof walked into a black church and just started popping people.
And then they gave him Burger King.
They took him to Burger King.
That Whopper, that was the best fucking Whopper ever made, I guess. God damn it.
I forgot that. But that
Jesus
is absolutely
Christ.
True. They asked that boy what he wanted to eat.
It was a murder Whopper.
And they took him.
Wild. Well, that is the world that we live in and the things that we've had to deal with. I wanted to ask you about your experience as a writer, because now you've taught all these people, you've gone around the world, and then was you writing part of the process of, well, if people are going to try to blackball me in a way, I will then write and people will come to my work in a way? Because you've written multiple books.
6. Yes and no. So me writing was more like, I'm going to use my voice and y'all can't stop me from using my voice. Which to me was more of a power play, because as they were trying to blacklist me from organizations and stages in the field, I was building an audience, and I knew on the strength of that audience, I can get book contracts.
Right.
So you can't stop me from using my voice. What I actually was doing in the regard in which you were asking was YouTube, because I knew I can just keep putting my message out into the world and you can't stop me. Which is why I always say I think technology, as much as we hate it, social media, blah, 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 but social media allows me to use my voice when they did not want me to. And because they didn't understand YouTube and I did, and they didn't understand social media and I did, they were like, Elliott can't come to this conference. I was like, I need your dumbass conference. I'm actually just going to like put a video on YouTube and just keep doing it. And over the course of time, I had such a large following. I've got hundreds of thousands of people on my email list right now to this very day. Every week I make a video about the kind of therapy that I do. I have like a blog series, even though like my career has evolved tremendously since 2017 when I started, or 16, whatever year I started it. But every week I release a video and I put it out on that blog series and I email it out to my followers, and that video series gets lots and lots and lots of views. And there's just no way to compete if you haven't done the work to understand the ecosystem that we're currently in. You know what it feels a lot like? It feels like we're in an Uber world and they're still trying to make me sit on the back of the bus.
Right.
So like, that's fine. You can pass whatever rules you want about the bus. I'll use Uber. Like there's no rules governing Uber in the stupid way in which you're doing it. So y'all can make whatever rules you want to about me sitting on the back of the bus because Uber's around now. And it was like they just didn't understand that. So they're trying to block me from stuff I don't even want. Like,
yeah, you don't need anymore.
No, and then I've built such a large company, and this is going to sound terrible, like I'm being petty, and who cares? I'm a little petty. The biggest organization that fucked with me the hardest, and by the way, I became the vice president of the board of that association, and they were still fucking with me. That's how I thought it would, like, if I become influential in this organization, they will, knock this shit off, and we can become like a unified field. But they kept fucking with me. Well, as I'm building my brand, my career, my company, their last conference had 65 people at it.
Wow.
I mean, we can get more. We could literally send out 2 text messages or 2 social media posts about some shit we're going to do at the Laugh Factory tomorrow and get more than 65 people. They could not get 65 people. It's laughable. And one of the things that I think is so important is like the status quo, the people in power, they are actually not interested in diversity at all because diversity is a threat to their power. But the masses are actually quite interested in diversity, and they're quite interested in authenticity. So as much as you tried your bullshit, the world has responded by saying, we're just no longer interested because your event had like 60 registrants or whatever the ridiculously low number was. I'm doing an online thing. Today is technically Wednesday, but we started this conversation on Tuesday.
Yeah, we did.
But I'm doing an online thing later this week, and I announced it on Monday, and 24 hours later, I had about 1,200 registrants for that thing. So the world has clearly chosen. The world has clearly said, we are buying into the authenticity and the purism and the kindness that we're experiencing over here. And something you guys are doing is not clicking because 66 people is not justifiable to continue what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like indicative of like what, you have these big companies lobbying against TikTok, and it's like, you guys are just going to shoot yourself in the foot. You could have embraced this thing. You obviously copied and pasted what they were doing already, but you could have learned from them, and now you're going to have people who are just pulling out everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah, instead of putting in the effort to see new innovation, you're stifling it now. You're stifling creativity across the board.
Which never works because creative people will always find a release for that creativity. So that just never works. And I don't know where this is going to go, but I'll tell you what we do need to accept. And to your point, I don't think the they, whoever the they is, government, whatever, the they, we live in somewhat of a borderless world. And I remember, like, I didn't know what the heck was going on in China. I didn't know what the world was going on in England. I can remember, I have family in Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I remember going to visit my family in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and they told me the like Mississippi family recipe of barbecue. And I was like, and this was in 1995, 6 or something. I visited that family and I'm like, oh, this is dope. Well, now I can just Google how people in Mississippi make their barbecue.
Right.
Carolina barbecue sauce is vinegar based. I can just Google that. But a generation ago, you had to go to Carolina to learn how to do that. So because of the internet, because of social media, the world is in a large way boundaryless. And I don't think we were ready for like a Chinese owned company coming in the US, because you know why that's a threat, why that's a problem, is they're not subject to the sanctions and the rules in which govern the US. They can't punish them, they can't reward them. Like they're not an American company, but yet they're hugely influential in how Americans live their life and what Americans do. And we have to somehow recognize, like, fine, there's going to be a Portuguese TikTok that will come. Like, the world is just boundaryless at this point. And why we're not kind of recognizing that and responding to that is craziness to me.
Yeah, because I mean, we can consume. I think the biggest kind of like hypocritical piece of that is, okay, so you're upset with China's parent company when the app itself is not even in China, it's from Singapore, this, that, and the third. We're not going to go into semantics because you'll just have people talking about does it connect to the internet? So, but then in a different sense, which is interesting to me, is that you have companies that have been in America for over 20, if not 30 years that are not American-like. I think about video game companies. PlayStation, last time I checked, Sony is Japanese, but maybe America doesn't have an issue.
Nintendo, Atari,
Nintendo, Super Mario is you like, people have been giving their information to log in to play games online, to use certain apps that aren't from here. Shit, the clothes off of most of our backs is not made in America.
No.
But all of a sudden, this one app, if the app was never successful, then they would not ever have had an issue.
The difference between like the Nintendos, the PlayStations, the T-shirts or whatever is because it's a physical product, we know how to tax it coming into it. And TikTok is just here. Like there's no...
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no way for us to benefit off of it financially. No. Yeah.
And it's so funny when you watch the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the Google, there's a very funny interaction between Mark Zuckerberg and one of the like House committee members of whatever thing they were investigating at the time, where they
with Facebook, right? Yeah.
And they were interviewing Zuckerberg, and with total confusion, this man was like, if your app is for free, and he's clearly accusing Zuckerberg of like fraud or some sort of business misdoing, which he may be guilty of some, but he was not guilty of the one he was accusing of. Mm-hmm. He was basically saying, if your app is for free, how are you a billionaire? Explain that, Mark. And he was like, advertise?
Like what you guys have been doing with television for the last...
But it was hilarious because it's like, you don't understand. Like, you don't understand this landscape at all.
No, well, and they've kept the same people in power for the last 60 years. And I think rule of thumb is that, listen, if you can't drive, if you're not supposed to be driving by yourself, you can't run the country either. So,
bro, we had Mitch McConnell. This dude
died.
Just
he
pause.
Died twice.
He just talked.
Yeah,
it paused.
Yeah,
and they just go back to work tomorrow. Like,
yeah,
he
died on camera.
It was crazy,
and we were just like, all right, let's all right.
Think about, man, if your grandfather did that. You wouldn't be like, all right, Grandpa, drive home. See you. Safe drive home.
Literally, we'd have to go immediately to the hospital. Grandpa's battery stopped. Like, what happened?
Yeah, like he just hit reset in front of everybody.
And it's funny because in certain scenarios like that, they would stop on a dime. Like if it's Biden, they're on his ass.
Right.
But the moment Trump starts doing it, I want to see what happens. Give this dude 4 years because he's in his late 70s,
and
early 80s.
He has not been taking gray hair.
No, and we've seen
there's already been some signs of Alzheimer's and other cognitive delay.
Yeah, let one of them snappy punchlines not land at the end.
But that's the thing about racism, right? Like that dude, Mitch McConnell, can literally blank out. Mm-hmm. And I remember being a younger person, and Barack Obama wore a tan suit.
The tan suit was a big deal,
and they lost their fucking minds.
How could he
behind this tan suit?
Yeah.
Donald Trump is grabbing pussies, and they're like, oh, that's just locker room talk. Like, no,
normal.
it's not. It's rape. Yeah. It's actually rape. Just so we're all clear here. He admitted to rape. I just let everybody acknowledge that. Because if I did that, they're throwing me under the jail, and justifiably so. You shouldn't be able to grab a woman or man by the genitals and continue to be a free man. And he is admitting openly. And they were just like, oh, that's locker room talk. Obama, for whatever you think about his politics, he's been a squeaky clean guy.
Yeah.
He's a father. He's a husband. You don't ever hear about Obama with prostitutes. You don't hear about Obama with porn stars. Obama wore a tan suit.
But he was still black. I'm not. Obviously, I don't feel that way. That's just what. That's how they saw it.
That's exactly how they saw it.
Yeah, that's how they saw it.
But he had that nickerdom thing going, and we have to address that. We can't ignore that.
He had a Hussein in his name, and that was another layer of I don't know about this.
When because I know racism, and I was so convinced that he was not going to win. Like, his people in his personal life apparently call him Barry.
Right.
And so when he ran as Barack, I was like, that's just too close to a Muslim name. They ain't voting for this dude. Like, I really thought like he should have run with Barry.
Right.
But he ran and won under the name Barack Hussein Obama. And that's impressive to me. It's 3 names that trigger racism, man.
No, I mean, I think you think about what comes of something like that, because I thought the same thing when Kamala was in. I was like, I would love for her to be there. I would love for her to do this, because one, she's qualified. We're not even thinking about people being qualified anymore. No. America's in a completely, we're in the twilight zone right now with the way that we're going about hiring people. But I think my limiting belief or not even my limiting belief, but my recollection of how this country operates was the first thing I thought was like, this sucks. She's talented, she's qualified, and she can do the job. But this is America. She's a woman, and she is black and Indian. And they're going to look at those last 3 factors and put that against her as why she's incapable. Mind you, she's 20 years dude's junior and has a brain that's actually functioning. But that doesn't matter.
But the thing that I found most fascinating about this is they can't say that.
No, they'll never say that.
They can't say, oh, the reason I didn't vote for her because she's black and female. What they say is like, so there are people I went to high school with that were literally like the shop kids. Like, these are not intellectual powers. And they were posting, because I went to high school with them, I would see their posts, and they were posting, she just sounds like an idiot. And I was like, say, you do not have to vote for her. You do not have to like her opinions or her politics. But the woman has a law degree that she earned from a top law program, and she functioned effectively as the district attorney and eventually like the attorney general of California. These are not jobs they give to idiots. And you should acknowledge that you are not qualified to determine who is an idiot or is not. Like, for example, you went to shop class, I went to graduate school. You are not determined to tell me whether or not I'm doing accurate diagnoses in my work. And I'm not determined to tell you how to do an oil change. But we have to acknowledge the limitations of where we are. And I was watching people, and it was so frustrating. I went to, this is kind of a personal but funny story. There are a lot of people from my hometown, because I went to high school in that suburb, predominantly white, Irish, white, Catholic, Italian Catholic. And the amount of racism I experienced was tremendous. And every now and then I would post about, like, racism is a bad thing and here's whatever. And there's this woman from the area that I grew up. I've never met this woman before. And she wrote on my Facebook page around the election. She was responding to something I posted about the election. She wrote, if you and your brothers were experiencing racism while you were kids living here, you should have moved. And I was like, first of all, lady, I don't know you. What? And secondly, is it your like rational thought that while children, that my brothers and I would be like, you know what, we don't like it, let's pack up and go. Like, is that really what you're saying?
Too much racism here. We got to get out of this place.
But that's
racism can't stop. We got to go.
That's literally what she said. Is like, if you and your brothers didn't like it here, you should have packed up. And she didn't say if your parents didn't like it here, which is still inappropriate because you can live whatever you want. But she was like, if you and your brothers didn't like it here, you should have packed up and left. And I was like, and I have to sit here and think, like, that person has the same level of vote as I do.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to say anybody shouldn't vote, but I'm just like,
oh, no,
what?
some people shouldn't vote. Some people shouldn't vote and some people shouldn't have children, but they have them all the time. It happens all the time.
I think that's true. But I was like, this lady is voting. And it was just absolutely insane and crazy to me. And I don't, it scares me for society because we seem to have lost compassion. And what makes me scared about this is, like, you can like Donald Trump's politics or not. Like, that's actually not the conversation I want to have, and particularly not the conversation I want to have about Donald Trump. But you should be willing to acknowledge that he has ignited racism in this country, unlike any. And I'm sick of, like, well, yeah, he lies, but all politicians lie. That is true. What makes Donald Trump different from every other politician that has existed in my lifetime is the way that he ignites racism. And I should be able to say to you, even while you are white, that Donald Trump's ascension to the White House makes my life less safe. And you should acknowledge that that is true. You can still vote for him if you want to, but don't gaslight me and tell me that my lived experience is not real. Yeah. But that is exactly what we are doing, because we have lost empathy and compassion in our society, and people gaslight me. And they're like, well, Elliott, that's not true. Donald, he said himself, he's the least racist person you'd ever meet. Yeah.
That's what a racist person would say. Yeah. I'm not racist.
He says that while saying Mexicans are rapists. And he does things, and I can't help it, man. I'm a psychotherapist. I watch people, and I'm like, did y'all see the thing? Did you see when they told him that black people don't make up the majority of people on welfare? Somebody told him on camera that black people do not make up the majority of people on welfare. And this brother went like this. This is Donald Trump's literal response. He hears that piece of information and he goes, who does then? Like, it did not cross his mind that white people is the answer to that question. He was literally like black people aren't, if they're not the answer, I have no idea.
You know, he can't believe his own racist rhetoric. It's crazy. Also, not to mention the fact that, like, he's designating a black job to people, which is, jobs are jobs. There's no black job, no white job. There's jobs. And then he said, but they're taking all the black jobs. Like, come on, man.
But
all the black jobs that he probably put black people in his businesses.
But there are black jobs and white jobs to them.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons I experienced the treatment I experienced in this field, because psychotherapist, keynote speaker at conferences, that was a white job. And this black man had the audacity to take one of the white jobs. And that's how they perceived it. It's like, he is limiting our access. And I know that is why they started having conversations like, how do we make sure Elliott isn't successful? Because if Elliott is getting booked to do these things, then that means we're not. And I was like, man, you're awesome.
Well, it's fascinating, and to kind of bring this all full circle, because I guess we, just in case, worst case scenario with the footage I got, you've come this far, you've learned as much as you've learned, and you came to this conclusion of wanting to help people with therapy and getting over their self-limiting beliefs. And we talked about it earlier, you had your experiences when you were growing up as a kid. Were those experiences, just to kind of go in reverse order, were those experiences when you were in Chicago, or were they when you were in Boston?
Boston.
Okay, so you didn't live in Chicago.
I moved. I was born in Chicago. My mother still lives in Chicago. My family, like aunts, uncles, are based in Chicago. Like, Chicago's like where my family home is. But we moved as a nuclear family. My mom, dad, and two brothers. We moved from Chicago to Boston when I was like 4.
Right.
So Boston is what I consider my hometown. Like Massachusetts is what I consider my hometown.
Okay.
So the majority of my, educational life and experience happened in Massachusetts.
Okay. And is that where that pivotal moment happened where you told your dad about those things you needed to stop doing?
I was in college in Texas, and no, I was in Texas. I'd gone to college in Texas, and he came to visit us in Texas, and I was like, bro.
Oh, and your brothers were with you in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you can't do these 4 things. You can't hit me. You can't yell at me. You can't call me names. You can't curse at me. And his literal response was, fuck you.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Because you're telling me I can't do what I'm used to or always have done, or you're telling me my level of control is being limited in some way.
That's right. But it's so, to me, it's such a, like, think of the person you love most on the planet. Think of your wife, for example. If she makes a request like that, that's got to be shocking. Like, okay, I let my temper get out of hand, and I need to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my best friend who's got, 3 kids, and I've really come to terms with all of this and use this as the inspiration for my work. But I watch him parenting his son, his middle child in particularly. If his son were to tell him, I ain't gonna talk to you anymore, even if the son was right, that should feel like a wound.
Yeah.
My dad didn't really work to talk to me for 20 years. And for the first few years of that was alarmingly scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it really helped me because it realized, okay, so the problem wasn't me, because that's an odd response. And I didn't tell my dad not to call me. I didn't tell my dad don't respond. The only thing I said was, don't call me while breaking these 4 rules.
Yeah.
And he would rather not talk to me for 20 years than obey these 4 kind of basic human decency rules.
Yeah.
Which to me is just like... So clearly it's not me, because that's not a normal response.
Yeah, no.
That is abnormal.
It's eye-opening because in his mind he's like, all right, well, fuck it, cut the whole arm off if that's how I have to go about it. I can just go on with my life. Because when you set a boundary with someone who is obviously overstepping on a consistent basis, the moment you cut them off or give them those boundaries, and if they're not willing to abide by them and then you go your separate way, I think them knowing that they kind of may or may not have lost control of the situation, you'd be surprised, because I think obviously, like you said, a part of you is like, oh, nothing's changed. I made the decision, the choices are done, and this is what comes after. There is no like, oh, they made a mistake and they're now realizing it and they're trying to figure it out. No. They're like, if that's what you want, then that's what you're going to get, because I don't think I'm wrong in this scenario. And I'm willing to, like you said, bet 20 years on it. Or unless there's some freak reason we have to come across each other again.
Yeah. And I didn't think about it in terms of like, it wasn't a manipulation. Like, I'm sure he'll call me next week, next month, next year, whatever. It didn't matter to me how long it took. I needed to be healthy. And to me, it was the most powerful moment of my life. Like, I am alive today because I made that decision, and I don't regret it. I regret being in that position, but I don't regret the decision that I made while in that position. But if you had asked me at that time, I probably wouldn't have guessed he would go 20 plus years.
Yeah.
LeBron James is in his 21st year in the NBA. And that basketball game happened his junior year. So we're talking 23, 24 years. And I'm grateful because I can smile and laugh and live a life. And I've never hit a woman. I've never yelled. Like, these are not part of my journey, my story. But it has also helped me heal a lot, because his response let me know, okay, so it wasn't me. Like, you really are a broken human.
Yeah.
Because only a broken human would do that. If you, like, obviously, I don't have a relationship with you like you're supposed to have with a dad, but, like, I like you a lot. I've loved hanging out with you. If Fern called me tomorrow and she was like, JD is mad at something you did in his office yesterday. He said he ain't gonna talk to you anymore. First thing I do is call you.
Yeah, no, that's what. Yeah,
That's the first thing I do. I'll call you. Hey, JD, what I do? Like, what happened? And whatever you told me I did, the first thing I would do is try to remedy it. Like I didn't like the way you like sat on a chair. Oh, my bad. I didn't know. None of that happened because he's not a healthy, balanced person. And it helped me to realize, like, oh, okay, so he's not a healthy, balanced person, which means all of that stuff he was blaming on me really wasn't about me.
No, not at all. And you're not a person who lacks empathy like him and whatnot. You actually have the cognizance, you have the self-awareness to sit back and be like, wait, I did something wrong that bothers somebody?
Yeah.
Let's try to fix it.
Right.
Let's do what usually society would teach you is the thing to do next. Hey, you did something bad. Let's do something good after that. But not everybody thinks that way, and not everybody cares enough to even put in the effort to rectify stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
Like, think about how lost you have to be as a human soul to not call your son, who just asked for some basic things. That's a pretty lost individual, and doesn't matter whether it's you're my father. Like, it doesn't matter. You were not healthy enough to function. And I tell people all the time, man, like, if you continue to expose yourself to a virus, you're going to get sick. Like, you can't be healthy while there's a toxin around. And he is and was a toxin, and I can't be healthy. And in essence, what I was saying to him, I mean, it sounded like no more hitting, yelling, name calling, whatever. But what I was actually saying was, you can only be around me if you're healthy, and I'm willing to accept you if you're healthy. And to this day, if he called me right now and said, I want to talk, I would absolutely be like, all right, yeah, let's talk. But he's not going to do it because he doesn't want to have a real conversation. He doesn't want to face his behavior. He doesn't want to face his conduct. He doesn't want to face his choices. Because you also now have to answer for, you knew how to get a hold of me for those 20 plus years.
Right.
You chose not to fix the mistakes that you made. And that's okay with me because I chose to live a life with only healthy people around me. And it's turned out the way it's turned out for me, and it's turned out the way it's turned out for you. But it is what it is.
As a therapist, just out of curiosity, do you sit back and just consider the fact that more or less, however he became whoever he was from previous teachings of his own?
100%.
Obviously.
So when I was, it's so fascinating that you said that, and it's also part of my healing journey as well, because I actually don't blame him. For his response, for his issues, and I won't tell his story because it's his story. But when I was, I don't know, maybe a year or two into this mess with him, and I was like, I can't allow toxic people around, because that was actually the decision. Had nothing to do with him specifically. It was like, no more toxic people. He just happened to be the most toxic with the closest contact to me, but no more toxic people. And I needed to shed my toxic traits, patterns, and attributes. But at some point, my mother called me into her bedroom, and she was like, I need to tell you something about your father. And she told me something I did not know, and something shocking, something that happened to him in his younger life that will alter the direction of a young person's life. And because of that, I have a lot of compassion for him. I have a lot of forgiveness for him. But until he demonstrates he can follow those rules, I don't have any access for him. Like, everybody needs to understand this in terms of a mental health journey. You can forgive someone while also not giving them access. I forgive him. I have no anger or resentment towards him whatsoever. But he has to earn access. And the way to do it is to demonstrate you can follow those 4 things.
Yeah.
And he to this day has not demonstrated that. He hasn't taken accountability for any of this stuff. And I don't feel like it's my job to expose myself to him. I feel like it's the other way around. And there have been a couple of times where I interacted with him and was further reminded, oh, you still tripping. So I will continue to, enforce the boundary.
That's how, I mean, that's just what it is. It's what you have to do. And it's just, I mean, it's unfortunate because as someone who has had to do something similar, it's sad to know that they would be willing to go their entire lives without rectifying their behavior to have you be a part of their lives, compared to, no, you should just come back and put up with what I'm going to put you through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which you're like, that's not a street I'm willing to go down anymore.
No. And I had the gift of knowing that street would kill me. So that meant every other thing, regardless how scary or uncomfortable, was a better choice.
Right.
So like, am I happy to have not spoken to my father in 20 plus years? Of course not. That is a hole that will be in me that will never be filled. But am I happy that I was strong enough to make the choice and could then live a life where I've never perpetrated domestic violence on anyone? I'm not a narcissist, abuser, like all those things. I'm so proud of that. Like everything else I've accomplished in life pales in comparison. Because I was able to break a cycle that is significant in the kinds of families that have the type of things happen in my family tree. And I'm just super proud of that. Like that really means a lot to me. And I hope one day he calls me and he's like, all right, look, I own, yeah. Because he will say, it wasn't that bad. I didn't, yeah, you did. Like,
that never happened.
yeah, he will say things didn't happen. But I mean, what do people with those narcissistic traits do? They gaslight. They tell you the reality you know is there is actually not there.
Yeah.
And he will say to me or he will say to my younger brother, over the years, like, you know, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. It did. I was there.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to debate you about it or anybody else, quite frankly. That's why I find these people from my hometown that are like, it wasn't that racist. You have the wrong uniform to be able to tell me what was racist or not racist. Because you didn't experience it, because you don't look like me. So I don't debate my reality with other people. I just don't do that. That includes my dad, and that includes anybody trying to gaslight me about racism. That includes all that stuff. Like, I'm just not willing to debate you. I know what happened. I was there. I was there the whole time. So I'm just not even entertaining the conversation. So the moment he says stuff like, you know, that didn't happen, Elliott's delusional, Elliott has an anger problem, whatever, just no reason to engage.
It's quite literally them saying everything that they do, and then they put it on you.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is 100% what it is.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You just have to do that over there.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care that you do it. I just care that you don't do it near me.
Yes, so please.
Do it, but just do it over there.
Keep it away from me. I was going to say, I guess in closing, I was going to say, so you've done all these things. You've become a world-renowned therapist. You've sold books. You have the best email list I've ever heard of. You and I met each other through our good friend Fern Orenstein, which
Fernie godmother.
Yeah, shout out to Fern Orenstein. She has connected the dots on so many people who have who it's good that we meet each other. It's nice, you know. I love it. Do you have anything, I guess, in your future? Or any like, what is your aim now, as far as, since you're in this place, you started your journey in stand-up comedy, you're getting television deals. Do you have like a future vision or a legacy you want to leave behind in the future for yourself now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same legacy always. I want to use television, which the legacy, it started with a job in the counseling field, then private practice, then books, then speaking, then online content, and now it's television content. I want to use the television platform to expose more people to solution-focused brief therapy, and I want to use that platform to expose more people to an African-American who is culturally African-American,
right?
Talking about and advocating for mental health, and I want to use that platform to make like psychotherapy more accessible, because I don't think everyone knows that psychotherapy is like an accessible thing that you will benefit from should you engage in it. And I think it's one thing to see like Charlemagne the God, who I think is maybe the most important Black advocate for mental health work that we've ever had as a culture. I don't know anybody that's done it more than him. But it's easy to discount that. Like, well, of course, he's rich. So, of course, he engages in psychotherapy. And I think we need to know, like, yeah, but the two things are not really, like, yes, he's rich, and yes, he engages in psychotherapy. But people think because he's rich, he can afford it.
Right.
And we need to be able to be like, no, you can actually find psychotherapy. You don't have to be Charlemagne the God. You don't have to be Tiffany Haddish. You don't have to be Taraji Henson. Like, those people all have talked openly about the therapy that they've engaged in. And whenever people of that level of success talk about something that they have, like, remember Oprah lost all that weight and people were mad at her. They were like, well, of course you lost weight. You can afford a private chef. Da, 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 da. And it's like, yes, she is rich. And yes, she lost weight, but we need to make healthier choices just as a culture and society also. Like, that's another thing. I'm on a significant health journey. I purposely don't call it weight loss journey because it's not just about weight loss, but I take supplements every day, and I try to move my body. Instead of having unhealthy choices, I have a smoothie every day, and I'm like doing research. Like, I'm eating berries that are high in antioxidants for these reasons, and there's creatine and protein, and like everything that goes into my body now is for a thoughtful purpose.
Yeah.
And I make content now about that because I don't think, like, the Black culture is dying from ignorance. Mm-hmm. We're dying because we don't know the information. So I've had a lot of Black families over the years tell me, I feed my kids this because the fresh stuff is so expensive. And I'm like, but that's just the myth that we've bought into. Yeah. That's actually not true. You can make extremely healthy choices. Like, I cannot tell you guys how cheap. So I'll give you a real example. So you talk about legacy I want to leave. I want people to watch my social media content and to reduce the experience of heart disease and diabetes, like two of the biggest killers in the Black culture. And like, one example of this is strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries are high in antioxidants. You can go buy a non-sugar added frozen bag of that for shockingly cheap and literally bring it home. And when your kids are little, start them eating sweet berries. And then they will grow up craving those sweet berries instead of craving Kool-Aid, right? Because that's what we do. Is I've seen Black families put Kool-Aid in the baby bottle. Yeah. And you are now teaching that kid and that body to crave that. But if you start by pureeing frozen berries high in antioxidants, you're giving that child healthy habits, and it costs way cheaper than McDonald's, but we don't know that. Right?
The knowledge.
Another thing that I did not know until I started doing this research, and I'm 47 learning this stuff. 48 now, but I was 47 when I started this journey. Did you know, because maybe you know that, I did not know this. Let's say you're going to eat a really bad meal, bad from a health perspective. You're going to have a McDonald's hamburger, McDonald's French fries, chicken nuggets. You're going to eat a high calorie meal. Yeah. If you start the meal with a high fiber thing, right? So I went to McDonald's and I ordered chicken nuggets, I ordered a burger, and I ordered French fries, but then I ordered a side of broccoli. And if you eat the broccoli first and then consume the junk, because you started with fiber, your body does a better job of absorbing the junk. So it doesn't cause a sugar spike. It doesn't cause a cholesterol spike because you started with fiber. I did not know that.
Yeah. It'll help your body process it better.
It'll help your body process it better. So I want to now use my platform. I just want people to live better lives. And I now realize that part of that is physical. Part of that is taking care of your physical being and your physical body. And being like, as I advocate in my work to help people be their very best, I now accept some of that as physical in the way we take care of ourselves, because Black people, we don't know that, like, just buy a bag of frozen berries and puree those frozen berries, and your kids will go nuts eating that stuff because it's sweet. There's actually a genetic reason why children like sweet things. children like sweet things because and people think that this is an evolutionary trait, but most poisons in nature are bitter. So children's taste buds don't enjoy bitter things because it would put them at risk for mushrooms or, whatever the poisonous things in the world are being bitter. So if you start your child like giving them blueberries and strawberries, they would devour that stuff because it's really sweet, but you are also giving them super duper great habits. So I want people to watch my content and be inspired to be a better person. And I also want them to be like, oh, I can still eat McDonald's, just eat broccoli first. Done.
McDonald's got to start selling broccoli.
But even a better example of this would probably be Chick-fil-A, because Chick-fil-A
Chick-fil-A has vegetables.
Chick-fil-A has a kale salad.
Mm-hmm.
Get the number one with the fancy waffle fries and the dope chicken sandwich. Like, get that. But eat the kale salad first, and you'll be doing less damage to your body by eating the high calorie stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Another thing I didn't know, for years, knowing that I want to be like healthy, I would drink diet soda or like zero sugar soda.
Yeah.
They sweeten that stuff with something called aspartame, which is worse than regular soda. Right. And I think instead of calling it zero sugar, they should call it plus aspartame.
It's just marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, there's no sugar, but there's an artificial sugar. At least your body is designed to process sugar because that's a natural element. Your body is not designed to process aspartame.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that. I want people to just be better overall. So, and I want them to come to my content, social media, YouTube, whatever, and be like, oh, I didn't know that about hope. I didn't know that about aspartame. I didn't know that about starting meals with fiber, and just be better humans for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they can learn a lot from you, man. You're very interesting and just well-rounded, well-read person who's done so much in the world. So, I mean, you've got a lot to share in the world, and I think it's all very fascinating.
And I shared a lot of it in the early part.
Yeah, no,
I'm
gonna try to salvage it and whatnot, because we talked about a lot of stuff. But in case we don't get to it, this will be part one, and we'll come back.
And even if we don't, like, we should do this more often.
No, this is fun. I was gonna say you do have a podcast.
I do have a podcast.
Yes, and also the way that you were speaking about Charlemagne is because you know him. You also respect him, but you know him personally.
Yes,
because you're part of his podcasting network and have met with him and whatnot.
Yes,
and yeah, no, I mean you know your work is working because you are touching people that it matters. Like in all different facets of life, whether it's even the fact that you're here with me and we've met through our friend Fern, and then Fern connects you to Tiffany Haddish, and then your story gets picked up to be developed into a show. And I do respect the fact that you have, like we talked about, an aim. Like, you're not just making a show because someone's like, you should have a show. You're like, no, I'm making a show because I want to take what I've learned and what I'm teaching and see if I can put it to the masses through television now.
Yes.
That's not something I would have thought far enough on. I'd have been like, I'm getting a TV show. I don't give a shit what happens. Y'all better just watch it and we get a season 2. No, but that's good that you actually, because I do, as someone who also advocates for mental health and therapy, I remember at a certain point I wanted to produce a children's show that would promote therapy or just promote better self-help within childhood situations and whatnot. But that was more like my brain. I used to be a animator / cartoonist, so I was like, maybe turn something.
You were
Oh, I can draw. I got some art books over there.
You're a very talented entertainer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're a very multifaceted, talented entertainer, which I think is actually important moving into 2025. I don't think the days of like having one skill are not that. I don't think that that's a good thing. Like, you can do stand-up comedy, but the fact that you can stream content, you can edit podcasts, you can and as we're learning in the ecosystem we currently live in, like, there's a lot of content creators who know exactly how to edit on TikTok, but you know how to edit.
Yeah, I'm an old head in the content game, I guess.
That's relevant because, like, the social media platform should scare everybody, because, like, all content creators is what I mean. But when the algorithm changes, it impacts your business if your business is based upon that platform.
Right.
Which is why I'm such an advocate for email lists, by the way. But so the algorithm can change. You still know how to edit.
Yeah.
So I think you're positioned to do super well because in the world we currently live in, you need a multifaceted level of skills to take advantage of all the opportunities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it and I agree. I always advocate for people. I'm like, listen, if you want to do something, learn how to do it yourself so you don't have to ask for help. And not to say that you should have to do it by yourself, more to just say that you don't have to wait on anybody.
Exactly.
If you want to just try something out, you can do it at a lower level and still try it and get it done without having to wait a week for an editor or 2 weeks for somebody to read the script or 3 weeks for someone else to review how you are. It's like, it's nice. It's good. The knowledge, the same thing that you just mentioned with, people in certain predicaments, knowing and understanding what they should be knowledgeable about, like how you mentioned the berries, is very important. Because I've even recently started doing like online coaching with a coach, and like I have a better knowledge of the foods that will help me reach the goals that I want to get to, and the amount of training and the amount of steps and all that stuff just to get that going. And that's something that I've always been like more than likely like athletic in my life. But I was like, well, as I get older, I want to be able to understand how to like maintain and grow and change and like adapt with time. So
that's where I'm at now. And as a upset of myself, because I was an athlete my whole life, but I took it for granted. Like I could eat whatever I wanted because I was just going to go to practice and burn all that off.
Yeah, metabolisms.
And then I got my master's degree when I was 32. I started my business shortly thereafter, and then I started traveling the world. Before you know it, you've gained 70 pounds. And I don't care what your intentions are. You'd be like, oh, when I land, I'm going to eat something healthy. But 4 flight delays later, you're landing in London at 12 a.m. and the only thing open is McDonald's. And by the way, I actually don't even mind McDonald's in other countries. Do you know that they put so much chemicals in the food in America?
In America?
For example, the EU, the European Governance
Union, yeah, I think so.
They will not allow bread from America to be sold in Europe because they don't consider it food.
Yeah.
That so many chemicals exist in our food. But
America, baby, USA.
but when you spend life on the road, as you watch your dad do it and you do it, like it's not easy to have a workout routine. And you could have the best intentions. Like I'm flying tomorrow, flying out on the red eye, and it's like, all right, when I land, I'm gonna do this and this. But there could be a flight delay. There could be all kinds of things. And before you know it, the journey took longer than it was supposed to. And you have to have certain levels of privilege. I now fly a lot, so I get access to like sky clubs and sky lounges and all that stuff when I'm in airports. They have a plethora of healthy food options
in the sky lounge
in those things. But if I don't have the money, if I don't have a ton of money, if I'm a single mom like my mother was with her kids, the only thing I could afford to feed my kids would be McDonald's.
Yeah.
And we just have to educate ourselves, man, and make better choices, and life gets better and smoother very quickly.
I agree. Elliott, where would you like people to find you or locate you, or is it just looking up your name online? Or
well, you can look up my name online. Just make sure you spell my name right with 2 L's and 2 T's. You'd be shocked how often people screw that up. Find me on Instagram and Facebook at Elliott Speaks, or visit my website, which is for psychotherapists and not. So if you happen to be listening to this, you're a psychotherapist, go to my website, elliottconnie.com. But if you just want to be inspired, find me on social media, go to my website, and you'll find content to help you be the best version of yourself.
There we go, man. I appreciate you for coming through, man. This was fun. Man. This was cool. This was very cool. This was very.
This is dope.
This is a dope sit down. I enjoyed this. All right. Good. Listen, I thought that conversation was really good. Minus the part where I almost lost all of our footage. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you might know what's happening. If you are listening to this on an audio platform, such as the 30 that are being distributed this podcast, you might be like, I don't know what happened there, but that jump cut was weird. Also, the camera died a few times. Hey, man. I'm trying, okay? I do this thing all by myself. It's self-produced. It's a self-produced pod. No one else is here. I don't have an assistant. I don't have a producer. Feel free to who wants to sponsor this pod?
Anybody out there? Any studios out there? Any big companies want to put a licensing deal together? 100 million. And I'll do it. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, any sponsors would be really cool if I'm going to be honest. I don't know if we have sponsors. I'm just making these videos for the sake of making them. I have an audio. I have no idea if this will be successful. I don't even know. The purpose isn't success. The purpose is that I want to have these conversations. So honestly, even if I never posted these, I'm going to still do them. So that's what it is. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave a comment on YouTube, maybe write a review on Spotify or Apple. Leave any feedback that you have. Are you enjoying this? Is this good? Even hit the like button if that's the feedback that you have today, or the dislike button. Maybe there's something wrong. I don't know, but I'm having fun. And, you know, I hope you are having fun with me. But thank you again for listening. I hope we're building a beautiful community out of this. And I feel like as I grow older, this is something that I'm just looking forward to doing for the next 2, 3, 10, 12 decades. How many decades? 10, 12? I don't think we're going to get that much time. Okay. Well, there you go. Also, if you really want to support my content or this podcast, you can follow me on Patreon at JD Witherspoon, unless I change the name to at Ad-Lib. I'm probably going to keep it under JD Witherspoon because it's probably going to have more than just my podcast. It'll probably have my podcast. I like to post stand-up comedy on there, full comedy sets, every once in a while, just because I don't post them online. I post clips. I don't post the full stand-up. You got to come to the show for that, unless you check me out on Patreon. So yeah, Patreon, JD Witherspoon. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again for listening. And I hope you had a good time with this new episode of Ad-Lib. I'll see you later.